Welcome to a deadline stream for Game Week 2 in FPL, and if there is background noise or whatever, then obviously, not much I can do about it, but I do apologise. I am on holiday at the moment, and it is what it is, and still, got my team up on screen, still happy to answer any of your questions, and yeah, I know it's a bit of a weird one, the deadline is actually tomorrow at 11 a.m., but I do think it's actually just best anyways to differentiate myself, and also because I actually have time now, and hopefully you lot are also interested. I did a poll actually, quite a few polls. I love my polls, and whenever I do ask people, they tend to prefer the Friday evening streams anyway. So this could be a regular occurrence on the channel, even if the deadlines are on Saturday. So of course, let me know what you think, and I'll be putting more polls in the future, of course. So don't worry about that. So in terms of my team, no actual differences from the team selection. Pretty much everything's the same. Bruno's still my captain, and if I do make a late change, I'll be letting you guys know on Twitter and also Instagram and YouTube community posts. Otherwise, that's really going to be the main big change in my team. Is it going to be Salah or Bruno Fernandes captain? To be honest, there's no right or wrong answer. I think they're both fantastic shouts this week and probably the best yet again. In terms of the rest of my team, is pretty much all going to stay the same. I don't think I'm going to make a transfer. Of course, it might be a bit tempting to move Harvey Barnes to Benrahma or Ismaila Sarr. That's something that I could do. However, I don't want to overcomplicate things. I want to give myself a bit of flexibility heading in towards Game Week 3. So I think the plan will be just sticking with who I have right now. I got them in for a reason. I still like Harvey Barnes despite his kind of underwhelming performance in Game Week 1. So we'll wait and see what happens there. And thank you everyone who is here. I really appreciate it. I'll go through all your questions now and some very good ones coming in. So Aranya says, will Nacho start? Is it worth risking keeping him in the starting lineup? The other players I have on my bench are Buendia and Ben White. Please advise. This is the thing with Nacho and why I kind of didn't go for him myself. It's just there's always kind of this question mark: is he going to start? And if he does, it could be Patson Daka, or if not, just Vardy up front by himself, with Barnes kind of being the second striker. So to be honest with Nacho starting, I'm not too sure. And you would have thought after his Community Shield performance that he would get a start in Game Week 1, but it just wasn't the case. So with Nacho, it's a difficult one. I think he's worth getting once he's nailed, but in this moment in time he isn't, so there's always going to be this kind of question mark. Is it worth keeping him in the starting lineup? I think if he starts, he can do really well. Against West Ham, actually, last time out, he did really well, despite Leicester losing. But I'm just not so sure about Iheanacho, so it might be worth moving him on, in my opinion. Whether it's Callum Wilson, Ivan Toney, Danny Ings for a few fixtures, I think there are other choices you can go for. So that is kind of, my advice to you there. Also, would you suggest transferring Iheanacho out for the likes of Wilson, Paupai, or Saint Maximan? Yeah, pretty much as I just answered, I'd probably say Wilson, just a direct swap. If it's Saint Maximan, you're looking at 2 transfers, potentially a -4, if not waiting until Game Week 3. So to be honest, just a straight swap to Wilson or another striker, to be honest. So yeah, that's fair enough. Good luck for Game Week 2 and good night. Thank you, Shuvo. Thank you very much, and good luck to you as well. Mickey says, good evening, Dylan. How are you? And hope you've had a good game week. I have, and yeah, very good game week 1. Thank you for tuning in once again. I have Barnes in my team. Is he worth keeping? I only have 0.5 million in the bank. Now, most people will be saying it's worth moving him on to Sarr, Benrahma, or just another kind of midfielder around that price bracket. And I understand that. I think it's actually a viable option. However, it's also not so bad idea to actually keep him. So what I'm personally doing is keeping him for the next few fixtures and then reassessing him. So in Game Week 3, after that Norwich game, we'll see, how it's looking like. So yeah, I think personally I would keep him and then maybe get rid of him in a few weeks if he's not really improving. And he could be a rotation risk with, Iheanacho and Daka. They're still going to be coming into the lineup from time to time. But yeah, otherwise I think he's worth keeping. Super sorry for my terrible spelling. No worries, mate. Gundogan or Grealish? Well, it actually looks like Gundogan is going to be fit for Game Week 2, which was a bit of a surprise. Kind of the rumours circulating was that he was going to miss this fixture, but it looks like he's actually going to play. Personally, I'd probably go for Gundogan. Not too keen on either of them, but still, both of them are capable of a haul. With Manchester City against Norwich, they tend to score a lot of goals. It's just identifying who is going to be the main or the highest point scorer, and I think Mahrez could be it. But out of those two options you propose, I'd probably still go for Gundogan, but I'm not too keen on either of them. What changes, transfers have you made, says Aranya? Yeah, pretty much as I said at the beginning of this stream, I've made no changes pretty much from my team selection video. And the only notable change I think I would make is with the captaincy, potentially going with Salah, but I'll let you guys know before the deadline. Otherwise, I just think I'm going to stay exactly the same. Ayling's first on my bench, Ben White second, Brownhill third. Nothing's changing there pretty much. And my starting lineup is pretty fixed. So yeah. Evening, Dylan. Glad to be here. Thank you, Flying Dutchman. I'm glad to be here as well. Hopefully the stream doesn't cut out. I'm literally in the middle of nowhere right now, but you know what? The internet is actually not too bad, I think, and hopefully I haven't jinxed it. Hello, Dylan. I hope you're doing well. What do you think about Wilson over Antonio? I don't want to lose one transfer. Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, I wouldn't get rid of Antonio for Wilson, but if it's a case of bringing one of them in and not really knowing who to go for, that's a different story in itself. Look, if it's just deciding between one of them, I still prefer Antonio, despite Europa League coming into the equation this season. And I definitely wouldn't be getting rid of Antonio. So pretty much my answer is Antonio. Dylan for Ballon d'Or says, Rahul, thank you, mate. Hello, Dylan, mate. Hope all is well and you're enjoying your holiday. I've just come back from one. Happy with the double signing. Maybe not people's first choice, but young with potential. So happy to see them. Yeah, where did you even come from in terms of your holiday? And yeah, double signing for Arsenal, you know, pretty rare for that to happen. And Ramsdale, he actually could do better than what people expect. He's only 23 years old, which is obviously a big plus. However, I'm not going to be expecting too much from either of them. I think they can be decent signings, but let's wait and see. So many times, you know, Arsenal have spent big. You know, this summer they spent the most of any Premier League club. Let's see if they actually gel and do well. Gara says, hi Dylan, would you have Mahrez or Son for this game week? If I had to pick one for this game week, despite me preferring Son in general, I would prefer Mahrez just because of the fixture, to be honest. Last week for Simicast, really hoping Veltman is back next week. Should have got Ayling instead, says the Flying Dutchman. Yeah, but, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing. It's kind of unlucky, you know, for Veltman to just be injured out of nowhere. There was not really any signs before Game Week 1 started. But yeah, Ayling, I mean, what a thunderous strike that was. And to be fair, most people have had him on their bench, just like I did, to be fair. So yeah, I wouldn't really worry too much about that in this moment in time. If Veltman's injury is long-term, then it's a bit frustrating, really. Aranya says, I don't want to transfer Iheanacho already. Is it advisable to go with two up front and Buendia as the fifth midfielder instead of Iheanacho? I get what you mean there. I mean, Buendia could be good for two fixtures, but I'm just not so sure about him, if I'm being honest. That's just my personal opinion. I would probably just transfer Iheanacho out for another striker, because even if Iheanacho starts the next game, who knows if he's going to start in game week 3, and this could be a recurring pattern going into each game week. But then again, looking on the other side of the argument, I think it's very early to kind of draw conclusions on all these players. So maybe you're doing the right thing and just keeping him is the correct decision. So personally, I would get rid of Iheanacho for another striker, but if you want to keep him, then fair enough. I'm not too keen on Buendia myself. It could be good though. I also agree, Dylan for Ballon d'Or, says Mickey. Cheers, mate. Cheers. Same team, but no Barnes. What is your cap? Says Malik. Yeah, my captaincy, I think I'm going to be going for Bruno Fernandes. Otherwise, it'll be Salah. It wouldn't be anyone else in this team. Trust me. I'm not going to try, pull a trick on you lot. It will be one of those two, as my captain, and I'll let you guys know. But yeah, I think at the moment I'm leaning towards Bruno because of his record against Southampton, and I just don't rate Southampton at all at the moment, at least defensively, with all their kind of main defenders going to Leicester City. One of the most simple game weeks FPL-wise, as I'm sure you know, was thinking of getting a City player weeks ago, but the uncertainty over Gundogan, Torres, the City men, the only City men I can afford, think I'll roll 2 free transfers next game week. Yeah, I think it's kind of a good thing in a way to start off so well, because it kind of is a common occurrence, for someone to maybe not have the start they want, and then they immediately think, I need to make a transfer and fix things. So it's kind of good that, you have a good start. You don't really need to do anything, and that's kind of the mentality you want to build along the season, in my opinion. I think kind of avoiding unnecessary transfers is so important, so that is something I would recommend to most people, and something I've learnt myself, especially over the last year or so. My first 2 seasons of playing FPL, I mean, the first half of the season, I would take ridiculous hits. I'm talking about really ridiculous hits, especially 2 seasons ago, and it just doesn't place you in a good position. So I agree with that. And yeah, with City, there's always kind of uncertainty there. I think Mars would be a great shout, but of course, if you can't afford him, then it makes sense. Lipok says Jota for Benrahma or Greenwood or roll the transfer. Oh, that's a tough one. Now, if I had Jota, I would consider getting rid of him. And who would I get him? Who would I get in for him? That's a tough one. Benrahma and Greenwood, both really good. To be honest, I would prefer Greenwood for the short term, so for the next few game weeks, because he's playing up front. He's looking really sharp. Surely there's no way that he gets benched. So yeah, I'd prefer Greenwood, and he's also plays for a better team, and he's just so clinical. JR says bench 1 from Rudiger, Barnes, Benrahma and Tony. Very good question, mate. Well, that's tough, really tough. I would probably bench either Rudiger or Benrahma probably. But then again, I think Chelsea are capable of a clean sheet at Arsenal. I think Benrahma and Barnes can both score, and I wouldn't bench Tony against Crystal Palace. So it's a tough one that you have to bench one of them. I'd probably go for one of those two, Rudiger or Benrahma. Rahul says thoughts on Van Dijk. I'd say he's a wait and see at the moment. And if you already have Trent or Robertson or Tsimikas, I mean, obviously Robertson, he's injured now, but when he's available, yeah, I just think them three are better options in this moment in time. And then going forward, maybe Van Dijk will be, someone who's going to be very important and could be a good FPL asset, a good differential. However, with him, he's just the kind of big thing about him is his impact on Liverpool's defence, which then obviously increases your chances of points with Trent and all the other defenders. So Van Dijk is not really someone I'm considering, to be honest. Marcus says, came back from a camping trip in Nottingham, mate. Weather was okay most of the week, but very hot today. Decent time outside and all. Happy to be back home, though, and watch this week's games and see what happens. Yeah, that's really good, to be honest. And I didn't do camping myself, but, kind of similar to what you're doing. And yeah, I mean, the weather's been kind of crazy this week, hasn't it? It was supposed to rain all week, but, that's the UK for you. Very unpredictable. And yeah, I mean, you actually are able to kind of watch all the games. I wasn't able to watch all of the games in detail last week because I was travelling, but, it is what it is. And, still managed to, spot some things with the eye test and obviously with the statistics from Fantasy Football Hub. So, it's all good. Baraka says, if Cavani would play as a striker, don't you think that Bruno won't get a chance to score because he will change position? Yeah, that's a good point you raised, and this is something that I mentioned in my team selection video, actually. And the fact that so many players are out, especially in offensive positions for Manchester United, it actually benefits Bruno because he's the talisman, not only in creativity, but also in scoring goals himself. And the fact that he's getting into more goal-scoring positions, that also increases Pogba's appeal. So what you say is a very valuable and very valid point. I think if Cavani comes back into the mix, Bruno, of course, won't be getting into those positions where he can really score a lot of goals. And yeah, he'll still score the occasional goal, but it just won't be as frequent. He won't be getting any hat-tricks, really. So yeah, I completely agree with that. Daniel says, start Cancelo or Webster. Don't know if Cancelo will come on as a sub and not get Webster clean sheet points. Yeah, that's tough because both of them have very good fixtures, to be honest. I mean, isn't there anyone else you could bench? I would start Cancelo regardless. I think his ceiling is too high to kind of bench him. But yeah, both of them I think could get a clean sheet and maybe an attack and return, especially Cancelo. Akil says, hi Dylan, what are your thoughts on my team? I have the same team but Rafinha instead of Barnes and Amati for White and 4.5 million strike instead of Tony. Have 3 million in the bank. Wow, that's a lot of money to have in the bank. Yeah, I mean, that's a fine team, to be honest. With that 3 million in the bank, you could actually upgrade one of your players, but there's no actual need, in my opinion, to make a transfer right now. You could always make that transfer going into Game Week 3. So, yeah, it's actually kind of good that you have a bit of money in the bank. It gives you a bit more flexibility of your transfers. Singh says, I have Salah, Bruno, Mahrez and Sarr as my midfield, but feel Son could be an incredible choice considering the way Wolves played against Leicester. Thoughts? Yeah, I get what you mean, and I expect Son to score, but you already have a really good midfield, and you don't want to kind of break your team up, get rid of Salah, Bruno or Mahrez when they could all easily haul it too. So, yeah, obviously Son can do really well, but you have a very good midfield, so not really something to worry about. You can't have everyone. And I think, I mean, I might be mistaken, I believe Wolves actually had one of the best expected goals conceded over the weekend. So that's something worth considering. So even if, they might have looked a bit shaky on the eye test, defensively they were, at least from a statistical point of view, better than what we thought originally. But it's only one game, and I think Leicester did struggle for, large portions of the game to break them down. Partha says, Dylan, I'm making no transfer this game week, but I am struggling to incorporate Son in my game week 3. Mahrez plus Callum Wilson out, Son plus Tony in for game week 3. Sensible? They are sensible transfers and they make sense. I would do something similar. If I had Mahrez, I'd get rid of him and get Son. Tony will be good until game week 5-6. Then there's a big fixture swing where potentially he's just not going to be, as valuable an option. So they're sensible transfers. They make sense. However, I wouldn't just, kind of book those transfers in. I just have that in mind, potentially make those transfers, but things can change because if Callum Wilson and Mahrez are incredible in game week 2 also, or they show signs of points coming along the way, you don't want to be getting rid of them. So just kind of keep an open mind and then, reassess going into game week 3. But they're 2 good transfers on paper, in my opinion. Lipok says Sanchez, Trent, Shaw, Target, Sarr, Jota, Salah, Bruno, Tony, Ings, Antonio, Foster, Ayling, Brownhill, Hoover. Roll the transfer, or is there any major sus in my team? I don't believe so, at least in your starting 11. Jota, of course, he could be benched potentially with Firmino coming in. But apart from that, there's not really a cause for concern, and I don't think you need to make a transfer. But, if you're just not sure of Jota, then you could always get rid of him and get someone else, like Greenwood, for example. But, I don't think there's a big need. Mickey says, start Barnes or just start Rudiger? I also have Shaw, Trent and Tsimikas in defence. That's a very tough question, to be honest, because both of them are, capable of a haul. I'd probably still start Barnes because of the attacking potential, but Rudiger, I think, could keep a clean sheet against Arsenal, in my opinion. The Flying Dutchman says, my team looks quite similar to yours. Benrahma instead of Barnes, Wilson instead of Tony, and my bench is a bit poorer. 0.5 million in the bank, rolling the transfer. That's completely fine. I think the template is pretty much stronger than ever. And there's a reason why the template is the template. They're very sensible picks. And then there's kind of 1 or 2 ways that our teams kind of differ. So that's good. Marco says, interesting to see that you are on Bruno captain, which is fair, and to be honest, was on him at the start of the week, but Anfield crowd may edge it as it really is a 50-50. Got 101, 1 less than you, so good start each. Yeah, definitely, really good start. A lot of people getting 100 plus points, so it's looking really promising at the moment, but very early days, if I'm being honest. And I completely agree about the captaincy decision. It's 50-50. And Salah at home is a different animal, really. But then again, he's just been so good over the last year or so, whether it's home or away. Although, of course, fans weren't in the stadium. So it's a tough one. I think Salah could really do the business. I just don't like his record against Burnley. But then again, the records kind of get thrown out of the window when the game week comes. Shearer says, Ayling or Deeney to play? I think I was asked this the other day in my team selection video, and I went with Ayling because Deeney's just not completely certain to start. So I'd probably go for Ayling. Baraka says, do you think that Burnley's defence is solid? Can Salah go blank? He didn't score against them last season. True, but I think he did come off the bench in the home game. I remember that. I think it was double game week 19. And yeah, that was pretty much the period where Liverpool lost 5 games at home in a row after going unbeaten in 3 or 4 years. Look, I think Burnley defence, if I'm being honest, we have to reconsider them a bit because, I think they're normally kind of seen as this defensively resolute team, but I just don't think they are the same nowadays. That's just my opinion. And then if you look at their stats from game week 1, they're pretty much the 18th, 19th or 20th in the league in terms of, shots in the box conceded, shots conceded, and all of these kind of underlying defensive statistics. So to be honest, I just don't rate Burnley's defence. And I do expect Liverpool to score probably 2 or 3. They could even score more, arguably, but I'm just not so sure. With Southampton against United, I expect United to score 3 goals probably, at least, although things can change and Southampton can maybe fix up a bit at the back for that game. But yeah, with Salah, look, I expect him to score. It's just, do I expect him to outscore Bruno? I'm not so sure. In the end, I'm going to have to be considering that all the way until the deadline, but it's a very tough question to ask. I think he will score though, that's just my opinion. Chelsea Blue says, hi Dylan, who should I bench? Benrahma, Wilson, Rafinha? Very tough. I'd probably look to bench either Benrahma or Rafinha, and my gut feeling would say bench Rafinha, but then again, you know what? I could be giving you the wrong one there. I think they're all very capable of scoring. Aranya says, I've got Jota and I want Greenwood in for him, but then I have to start both Sufa and Amati who are up against each other. Would you make that move or get Cancelo for Chilwell and then bench Amati? Tough questions. To be honest, I'd probably, hold the transfers, and then in game week 3, you have more flexibility around you. But you know what? There's no right or wrong there. And Cancelo for Chilwell could be really good for this week, but going forward, he is a rotation risk. So it's a really tough question. Odegaard is, I don't know what you said there, but yeah, for 5.5 million, looking interesting. Oh, is down. Yeah. That's a really good price for Odegaard. I think 6.5 million probably would have been a fair price. So 5.5 is actually very good on paper. I want to see first how Arsenal play and how Odegaard plays. He can have a really good game like he did against West Ham in the 3-3 last season and not get that many assists. So that's one thing I would say about him. Shanoy says, I have a similar team as you except Benrahma instead of Barnes. Should I transfer out Greenwood to Mahrez or Tony to DCL for a -4? Honestly, I'd avoid the hits right now, especially if you're happy with your starting 11. I think that's more than enough. I don't think you need to take a hit this week, but if you had to, then I probably would do Tony to DCL, although to be honest, I think Tony and Greenwood can all score. Same with Mahrez and DCL this week. It's just kind of looking long term, I think DCL is a really good pick. Who would you bench, Soufal or Cash? Very good question. I probably would bench Soufal. I tend to prefer Soufal because of his attacking potential. I'd probably still just bench him. I think Aston Villa are more likely to keep a clean sheet. Akil says, start Ayling or Amati. Both teams they are playing against have a high chance of scoring, in my opinion. Yeah, it's a tough one, to be honest. I probably would start Ayling. I think he has a bit more attacking potential. And to be honest with Amati, I just don't know if he's even going to start. It could be Vestergaard coming in for Leicester. So obviously, I don't expect him to come off the bench for a one-pointer, but that is also a possibility. I'd probably just start Ayling out of those two. United playing their favourite opponents while Liverpool play our nemesis. Bruno versus Salah captain. Yeah, then again though, I think Burnley are just really sus defensively. And to be fair, they were last season too, yet they still kept a clean sheet at Anfield. So there's no kind of clear-cut answer, I think. My gut is going with Bruno at the moment. I still think Salah can do really well though. People are going to be quite disappointed when the average this week is 40 points. That's actually a really good observation there, to be honest. I actually expect a low-scoring game week, probably by game week 4 or 5. So this could be it. And, we're kind of going to be brought back down to reality. We're not going to get 100 points every week, unfortunately. So yeah, you know what? That could actually be the right thing. Zucchi says, with Veltman out, the current defence I'm fielding is Ben White, Trent and Amati. Should I use a transfer to take out Ben White? And if so, for which 4.5 million defender? Well, that's a tough one. Yeah, I mean, if Veltman's out, but you want to keep him going into the future, that's fair enough, and then get rid of Ben White because you don't trust Arsenal and they have 2 really tough games coming up. That makes sense. Which 4.5 million defender? I think Ayling kind of long term is a good pick. But yeah, kind of in the short term, there's not really anyone for the next few game weeks. What I would say though is, looking at the options, I'd probably say Cody from game weeks 4 to 14 has a fantastic set of fixtures, so that's someone you could go for, if not Ayling. Other than that, there's not really anyone who kind of stands out to me. I might have forgotten someone, but yeah, I'd probably go for one of those. Mickey says, bench 1, Tony, Barnes or Benrahma, and yeah, no worries, keep the questions coming. And hope you have a lovely evening and holiday. Thank you, likewise, Mickey. As for your question, bench 1, Tony, Barnes or Benrahma, very tough. I probably would, say the same thing as I said before. I'd probably bench Benrahma. Otherwise, it'd be Barnes. I just expect Tony to score against Palace. Obviously, his kind of average position, and if you look at his heat map against Arsenal, he was really deep in central midfield, and it was Mbeumo and all these sorts of players who were getting into the advanced positions. But I probably would still start him and either bench Barnes or Benrahma, and I'd probably bench Benrahma. Clifford says, hi Dylan, my team is exactly like yours except the goalkeeper. Want to replace Barnes with Benrahma. Is that a good idea? It's a good idea, but then again, it might be a bit reactionary because I think Barnes can offer you a lot in game week 2 and also in game week 3. So that's something to consider. But yeah, I probably would stick to Barnes at the moment. If you do get rid of him, however, I think Benrahma is a good option going forward. Sarr. And then you look at others like Rafinha, long term is a good option. And yeah, Greenwood, Jota, there's quite a few. When are you going to wildcard, says Rahul? To be honest, I'm not thinking of that yet. I've got maybe an idea, or I will form an idea of when I'll wildcard, but I just don't want to kind of book one in right now. I think the best thing to do is to kind of wait, see how things go. I'm flexible, or I'm going to try to be flexible. and maybe our wildcard in game week 7. That's when there's an international break, big fixture swings for teams like Chelsea and all these kind of teams that we have in our squads already. But yeah, I just don't want to kind of write that down yet. Bakul says, hi, how are you doing? I'm doing really well, thank you. And how are you doing? Arief says, who would you bench, Ayling or Target? I'd probably bench Ayling, to be honest. But then again, Target could be benched in the next game. Who knows? If he does start, though, I expect him to get a clean sheet potentially. Brownie says, would you keep Vardy in even though he has Leicester? I'm guessing you say if he has West Ham, because next week he has Norwich. I probably look, if I had Vardy and with Kane kind of not really, he's still a big problem there, because I'm guessing you got Vardy in as a placeholder for Lukaku or Kane. So I probably would just stick to Vardy for the next few game weeks, and then maybe in game week 7, move him on for Lukaku when Chelsea have great fixtures all the way until game week 11. Baraka says, if Kane and Lukaku will be in form, would you sacrifice Salah or Bruno to get one of them? It depends. If Kane, for example, joined City and showed immense form and immediately hit the ground running after 1 or 2 games, then yeah, maybe I would. But at this moment in time, I'm not thinking of breaking this team structure. And, Salah and Bruno will probably be the 2 highest scoring FPL players this season. So I don't want to kind of think about ripping my team apart and the structure, which obviously I put a lot of time and effort into before game week 1. So I'm open to the idea, maybe to Lukaku in game week 7 or Kane going forward if he goes City. But right now, no, to be honest. Shadow Gaming says, hi Dylan, my team is pretty much sure. Don't think I'm going to make a transfer. I have Sanchez, Tsimikas, Trent, Shaw, Salah, Bruno, Greenwood, Rafinha, Buendia, Antonio and Ings. Deciding between Salah and Bruno captaincy. That's pretty much the main talking point this week. Who do you go for? And maybe getting rid of Barnes or Jota. I think that's kind of the main things to talk about right now. And yeah, I mean, with Salah and Bruno, I'd say go with your gut there. Either one's a good choice. And that team looks solid, to be honest. I don't like Buendia going forward, maybe in game weeks 4 onwards, but he could do really well in game weeks 2 and 3, and the rest looks very, very good. Hur says, hopefully I said that right, what striker should I go for now? I want to replace Oldie Watkins. Not sure if it's the best move though. Well, Watkins is supposedly missing game week 2, and if you kind of know Dean Smith already, he said he might not be out for a long time, but he said that about Grealish and he was out for months in the end, so I probably would get rid of Watkins, and if you're not sure who, I'd probably look at Ings as a direct replacement. If not Calvert-Lewin, Bamford, Antonio, Tony. If I had to prioritise though, I'd say Danny Ings for the next 2. He's the one that I'd mainly want to get. And then yeah, Antonio would be one of my favourites. And then looking long term, I really like the look of Bamford. As for Jimenez, he's another one to consider, but I want to see more from Wolves. And I want them to enter their kind of golden fixture period before kind of committing to any of their players. Lipuk says, planning to get rid of Target if he continues to struggle. Pre-plan to downgrade him to Ben White for the fixture turn. Any other player in that price? At 4.5 million, I'd probably look at Ayling and Cody from game weeks 4 onwards. Otherwise, there's not really any standouts at the moment. Yeah, I'd probably say those 2. Missed the start of the stream. Where are you on holiday? I actually didn't even say where I was on holiday, but yeah. Yeah, I'm in Wales at the moment. I'm in a really remote place. Yeah, pretty much in the middle of nowhere right now as we speak in a cottage. But yeah, it's going well, to be honest. And I'm back this weekend in London and then looking to upload more content in the future. Team selection videos, previews, deadline streams, reaction streams if you lot are interested, and much more. So stay tuned for that. Lad, should I sell Veltman for Webster or save my transfer and bring in Ayling? Good question. Look, if you have enough defensive cover there, so you have 3 good defenders like Tsimikas, Trent, Shaw, for example, then I probably would just roll the transfer or save the transfer and yeah, just stick it that way. Cameron says, hi, could I hear your transfer plans? Well, to be honest, at the moment, there's no transfer plans, at least for Game Week 2. What I am considering in Game Week 3 onwards, potentially, is moving Barnes on for someone like Benrahma or Sarr. That is one possibility. I'm also looking at maybe moving Ings to Calvert-Lewin or Bamford, and if not, Callum Wilson. Other than that, though, I think the rest is fairly settled at this moment in time. If Greenwood kind of loses his place, then that's someone else that I could obviously move on to another 7.5 or maybe cheaper million defender. But yeah, other than that, I think the rest is going to stay the same, to be honest. I'm aiming to have the same goalkeeper. Salah, Bruno still in there. even Ivan Toney at 6.5 million, because it's kind of hard to bring him up or upgrade him. So yeah, really Danny Ings, Barnes, and maybe Greenwood, they could be transfers I make. Ben White is another one, to be fair. If I just, I'm an Arsenal fan, so, I don't want to add more stress of watching their games by, having one of their defenders and they keep conceding goals. So yeah, that's just one way of looking at it. Shadow Gaming says, some of my transfer thoughts are to take out Buendia and bring in Barnes against the shaking West Ham defence, as I save 0.5 million, or bring in Benrahma. It's a tough one because Barnes, even if he does really well against West Ham, which he's definitely capable of doing, he might be benched occasionally for Daka or Iheanacho. That is a possibility. However, I think he is a good option, especially in Game Week 3 if he starts. So it's always a risk there. Benrahma should be nailed pretty much for, until he loses form, or, for the rest of the season potentially. So yeah, either one's a good option. It's just kind of going with your gut there. If you already have Antonio, then I'd probably just go for Barnes. But yeah, so kind of good thing to consider. Marcus says, to be honest, I think I overlooked Brentford's fixtures for the next 4 or so, didn't pay too much attention as I thought they are unknown and started with us. And despite his blank, I'm a bit worried about Toney. Yeah, I think Toney until Game Week 5 could do really well. After that, obviously the ceiling's going to be pretty low because he's facing some top teams and top defences. But yeah, I think if I was going without Toney, then yeah, maybe he's someone that I would think he could really damage my rank. I wouldn't worry too much though. It's literally, as I keep on saying, it's impossible to have everyone you want. You're always going to kind of lose out somewhere. Mbeumo looked very lively too, playing out of position up front, which he should for most of the time. Him and Emil Smith-Rowe on the watch list for cheap midfield enablers, and Odergard, if he can keep up his returns. I completely agree. I was literally going to say Odergard too at 5.5 million. Yeah, I think Mbeumo, I said this either in the team selection video for Game Week 2 or before that. I think I said that he's, in my opinion, the best 5.5 million midfielder. Odegaard could potentially challenge him, but yeah, Mbeumo looks really good and so lively. And I think he's going to be the main spark for Brentford. He's going to be the player to watch, really, even if Toney gets all the goals. The Flying Dutchman says, Manchester United have a big fixture swing around Game Week 7. Might get rid of Bruno then. Might use the wild card. True. I mean, I think Bruno, I wouldn't say he's completely fixture-proof. I do expect him to still get some attacking returns against the big teams, even from open play this year. But yeah, I think that's something worth considering. Getting rid of Bruno in Game Week 7, making 2 free transfers or wildcarding, and getting Lukaku in, or maybe Harry Kane. So that is something worth considering. If not, Heung-min Son's another one to look at. Do I start Soufal or Amati, says Tomas Garcia. Good question. I'd probably start Soufal because of the attacking potential, and also I don't expect Amati to start, or at least there's a reduced possibility because of Vestergaard coming into Leicester. Baraka says, do you think that Pogba would have the same story as Willian last year? That's a good comparison. His price will rise up again tonight to 7.7 million. I'm not so sure. I think Pogba could have an amazing season, or a really good season pulling the strings from midfield, but FPL-wise, it could be another Willian where he gets so many assists in Game Week 1, and then going forward, he's not even going to reach, double figures in assists, and he's already pretty much halfway there. So that is, a possibility. However, from a kind of, non-fantasy perspective, I expect Pogba to have a good season. Anon says, do you think Amati might start or Yannick Vestergaard will deputise? I think if Vestergaard's fit and available, I think he's going to start. But, it wouldn't surprise me too much if Amati had one more start in him. Going forward, though, I think he's not going to be playing, and, he's 4 million for a reason. This is my team: Martinez, Ayling, Tsimikas, Shaw, Barnes, Mahrez, Greenwood, Salah, Bruno, Ings, Antonio. Is my team strong enough? Definitely, mate. It's really strong. Yeah, I mean, your midfield's stronger than mine, really, on paper. It's a fantastic midfield. Obviously, yeah, you don't have Trent, but you can't have everyone. This is what I mean. And you cover him in a way with Tsimikas. Yeah, that's a really strong team, to be honest. And I imagine your bench would be fairly decent too. Between the sticks, who should I go for, Sanchez or Martinez? Who is more likely to get a clean sheet? Honestly, tough one, because Watford look very impressive against Aston Villa. And then again, Newcastle can score goals even if they concede a lot themselves. I think Martinez is probably still a bit more likely to keep a clean sheet. Brighton, even if they are solid defensively in this game, they can always concede out of nothing. So yeah, I'd probably say Martinez, but I wouldn't be making, transfers and goalkeepers regularly. I'd only be making them, once in a while. I think it's worth it, making a goalkeeper transfer, but not too often. I already have Hoover and Ayling. Would it be wise to double up on Cody or just do White for target? Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah, you do, Lipuk. I'd probably say target for the next few fixtures or another Aston Villa defender. Otherwise, maybe just go for... yeah, that's a tough one. You could always, I'd say persist with White because you got him in for a reason in Game Week 1. So yeah, Game Week 1 was really disappointing. Arsenal were terrible. Game Weeks 2 and 3, they have poor fixtures. But from Game Week 4 onwards, I expect some clean sheets there. Potentially in Game Week 4 against Norwich. So maybe another option would be to keep White, in my opinion. Shadow Gaming says, what do you think about the signings of Odegaard and Ramsdale fantasy-wise and just as an Arsenal fan? Very good question, Shadow Gaming. From a fantasy perspective, I wouldn't really expect much from Ramsdale this season, or at least in this moment in time. However, there are reports from The Athletic that this is going to be Leno's final season, or at least that's how the kind of Arsenal hierarchy are viewing the situation. So maybe next season Ramsdale could be the main starting keeper for Arsenal, and obviously it's going to be he's going to make a big push to be the number one keeper for England as well. As for Odegaard, I think he will have a good season, at least from a non-fantasy perspective. I'm just not so sure if he's going to get so many goals or assists. I think I'd be expecting 5 to 8 assists from him. I'd be surprised if he gets more, and I'd be surprised if he struggles to reach 5, to be honest. But, that's kind of my view on it. And maybe Odegaard will grow into the team, and as Arsenal get better, if they do get better, I think in the years to come he might be a really good option, and he might, next season or in 2 seasons, depending on his performances, be 6.57 million. As an Arsenal fan, I like the Odegaard signing. I don't think it's going to take Arsenal to the next level, but I do think it's a good signing. It's a sensible one, and considering they sold Willock for 25 million, they're essentially signing Odegaard for only a few £1 million. So it makes complete sense, and I think he is a better player, and he adds that creative spark that Arsenal tend to miss, to be honest. As for Ramsdale, I'm not too convinced by him, but he is 23 years old, and I still think he has a lot of room for improvement, and he has the potential. I'm just, hopefully he does really well, and I just don't get the kind of people who are already kind of bashing him or writing him off. I think he could still do well. I'm just kind of a bit cynical and skeptical about it, but I still think he can be a good signing. We'll wait and see. Very good question. Thank you for that, mate. Ralph Che says, hello Dylan, Man City's next match seems quite appealing to me. I'm considering Gundogan or Grealish to replace Jota. I'm somewhat concerned about Jota starting. Your thoughts? Yeah, I would be too, to be honest. However, in your situation, I'd probably still keep Jota because, yeah, he's a rotation risk. But then again, going forward, Gundogan and Grealish from time to time could be as well. And even if they're not and they start most games, which, to be honest, I think they both will, City, their goals come from everywhere. So the goals are going to be shared. With Liverpool, most of the goals are going to be from the front four, pretty much. So that's kind of why I prefer Jota over those 2 assets you named. Of course, the fixture is really appealing for City. However, I'd probably just keep Jota. Shiv says, Salah or Bruno captain? At the moment, I'm going Bruno, but to be honest, it's almost 50-50 for me. And I might end up going for Salah anyway. So obviously, if I say Bruno now, it's because that's what I feel like right now. But, if I do more research or whatever and I change it, it is what it is. It's literally a 50-50 decision, in my opinion. I just like Bruno's record against Southampton. I think Southampton are really vulnerable defensively. Then again, though, so are Burnley. And also Manchester United, just looking at them in pre-season and in Game Week 1, they look so sharp. And Bruno Fernandes, I think, even if he doesn't get the goals, he has the assists and he's got the set pieces. There's a lot to like about Bruno Fernandes. I have Havertz and was planning to go to Mahrez, but now I want Son next week. Should I just hold Havertz or go for Mahrez now? Oh, tough question. To be honest, with that fixture against Norwich, I think it's worth getting rid of Havertz for Mahrez, to be honest. And then going forward, in Game Weeks 3 and 4, you can get Son in for Mahrez. Although, it is a lot of transfers, to be fair. Should I get in Mahrez for Jota, 1.5 million in the bank, or save transfer? You know what? There is still a chance of Jota starting. It might be worth the risk to kind of make a switch there. However, I would, if this was me, I'd probably stick with Jota. What are your transfer thoughts for the game weeks to come? Yeah, as I said before, I want to keep my options open, but things that I have considered are getting rid of Barnes potentially, Greenwood if he loses his spot, but I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. Danny Ings when Aston Villa's fixtures turn for the worse, and maybe get another 8 million or 7.5 million striker. And another one would be potentially Ben White to another one. And if I have a transfer to spare, then maybe I'll change Brownhill to Gilmore. Other than that, though, I'm not really thinking of, transferring out the rest at this moment in time. All Clean Music Waves. I'm guessing this is kind of a different type of channel. Hey guys, I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers today, or 1,000 subscribers. Could you guys subscribe? So yeah, if you lot want, subscribe to his channel and support him out. It's really tough to get to 1,000 subscribers, and if he's very close, why not give him a subscription? And you know what, you might enjoy the content as well. So why not? The Flying Dutchman says Smith Rowe isn't that great an option with Odergard coming in. 5.5 million midfielders might be a trap. They look great options, but if they give you no returns, they're no better than 4.5 million midfielders. I completely agree. I think Mbeumo would be the kind of standout there. But yeah, I'm not really too keen on Odegaard or Smith Rowe right now, but they're ones to keep an eye on going into the future. Also, is Dele Alli a good cheap way into Spurs instead of Son? A last question. Thank you, Dylan. I mean, you can keep the questions going, mate. It's calm. Honestly, look, I think Dele Alli could be a good option at 6.5 million. However, I don't think he's good coverage, for Son. So if you can get to Son, I would thoroughly recommend getting him instead of Dele Alli. But of course, funds are a big issue there, and you might need to make an extra transfer to facilitate that. So I think Dele Alli could be a good cheap midfielder, maybe one of the best ones at 6.5, but I prefer Son. Duffy looking sharp last game. Byrne and Veltman are out. He's going to start 4 million. Yeah, that's true. Then again, though, a lot of people are already on Simicast, and he should be starting for another game week or two at least. So that's why, Duffy's not really going to be in the thought process of many people. However, he's someone that you could maybe go to potentially. If Veltman and Lamptey are out for a long time, and also Daniel Byrne, then I think Duffy could be the next 4 million defender to look at. Thomas Garcia says, should I sell Stuart Dallas for Odegaard? I wouldn't do that just yet, and to be honest, I'm not too keen on the 5.5 million midfielders this year. Mbeumo would be the kind of main one I'd be looking at, but you'd want to see more from Odegaard and Arsenal first before kind of making that move. Should I do Gundogan to Greenwood or hold? With that Norwich fixture in mind, I probably would just hold. However, obviously, if this was yesterday when it looked like Gundogan was going to miss the game, then yeah, I probably would have suggested that or another transfer. Tomas Garcia says, who should I sell Chilwell for? It depends who you already have. I'm guessing you have Trent already and Simicast. If you don't have Shaw already, I'd recommend him. Otherwise, I think if you back him to start, Cancelo could be really good. If not, just Diaz, have a set and forget, nail defender there. Otherwise, really, if you back Chelsea's defence, even through these tough fixtures, Rudiger, I think he should be the most nailed or one of the most nailed Chelsea defenders. Not too much attacking threat, but still, I think the clean sheets are the main kind of bread and butter for him. So those are kind of the main ones I'd be looking at. If not, you can always downgrade, go to someone like Soufal, have more money, and spend that elsewhere. Should I take out Mane? My midfield is currently Salah, Mane, Bruno, Benrahma, Sarr. I'd probably keep Mane for this game week. I think he could actually outscore Salah. But going into game week 3 when he faces Chelsea, I'd probably get rid of him there. So what I would do in your situation, Nabs, is get rid of Mane in game week 3, going into the Chelsea fixture, and you have 2 free transfers there. So that's what I would do. Karthik says, remove Bruno to KDB captain with Sancho, Salah in the team. I know it's a maverick move, but could backfire big time. Yeah, I mean, it could also do you wonders, to be honest. So good luck with that. But yeah, I mean, removing Bruno after that, what you just saw, is really risky. And I think he's got 2 goals, 4 assists in 3 games against Southampton, including 3 bonus points. So it's very, very, well, it might be more actually. But yeah, it's a really, really tough decision to make there. The Flying Dutchman says, thoughts on Martinez? How could Arsenal let him go? He was a great keeper when he got the chance. From an FPL perspective, obviously he's a legend there, and the highest scoring goalkeeper in ages, pretty much, or of all time. Yeah, it's a shame that Arsenal sold him, to be honest, but he wanted to be number 1, and I think, you know what, personally, I would have had him remain the number 1 until he made a mistake, or Leno was, showing he was better in training or whatever, and have some healthy competition there. But the fact that Leno, it looks like he's going to be going very soon, maybe next year, it kind of just makes the Martinez decision even more stranger, to be honest. And he proved himself in the Copa America as well. And I think it's just the main thing with him is his presence, I think. He's not like an outstanding shot stopper. I think he's a good shot stopper, and he's good at everything, collecting crosses and everything. But I think his main thing is his presence and the security he transmits to the rest of the defenders. Watching the FA Cup in 2020, I was so calm watching Arsenal, and that's quite rare. But literally, I just knew that we had someone really good in goal. So even if our defence was kind of shaky, he could kind of steer us through the kind of tough periods of the game. He did the same with Argentina in multiple tough games, including Brazil, Colombia, and all these tough matches. Yeah, he's just, in my opinion, one of the best keepers in the league. And it's just a big shame that we sold him. Evening all. Evening to you, Harry Dawson. Thank you for joining in. Commiserations being an Arsenal fan. Well, thank you, Johnny Rick. Commiserations being you, I guess. Sanan Shah says, I have 2 Arsenal players, Smith Rowe and White. Should I look to transfer them out? I think if you got Ben White, you had him in for a reason. Probably looking at the fixtures from Game Week 4 onwards. So I'd maybe keep him. As for Smith Rowe, if you can, maybe upgrade him to someone else like a Harrison or a Rafinha. All these kind of 6.5 million options. And if you can, I think probably Salah or Benrahma, they'd probably be the best options to go for. Other than that, I'd probably keep White. Who are you bringing in for Game Week 3? I'll be honest, I'm not completely settled on that, to be honest. But Benrahma could be one of them, if not Salah for Barnes. Another thing I've been considering is Danny Ings. After Game Week 3 anyway, going into Game Week 4, moving him on for another 7.5 or 8 million striker. But other than that, maybe Ben White or Brownhill potentially. But yeah, I'm just, at the moment, I'm not really kind of settled in with my transfers going forward. I'll try to get through. I'm seeing that there's more questions coming in. Really appreciate everyone who is here. I'll try to get through the rest of the questions quite quickly. Should I transfer out Barnes for Benrahma? I'd probably keep Barnes, to be honest. I think at least keep him until the Norwich game in Game Week 3 and then reassess and potentially get rid of him there. Trent captaincy choice. I mean, why not? It's a bit of an outside one. I personally still prefer Salah or Bruno because Liverpool could put 3 or 4 past Burnley, but I think Burnley could still maybe nick a goal there, and that will obviously kind of ruin Trent's point appeal. So, yeah, honestly, it might be a really good captaincy shout, and if you're feeling it, go for it for sure. I'm just personally not really feeling it myself. Thank you so much for the advice, mate. Good luck tomorrow. Thank you, Baraka, you too. And enjoy the football and good luck with this season. Should I consider selling Grealish next week? It's something to consider, yeah. But if you have him, I'd keep him, especially with that Norwich game. So maybe going into Game Week 3, you could sell him. I do like Bruno, but Salah for the first game of the season at home is really enticing. Still on Fernandes' captaincy at the moment. It's so tough, isn't it? And it can go either way. As long as they both fall, it's not really a big issue. But if there's a big kind of gap and discrepancy between both of them, that's when you're kind of in a bad position, especially if you captain Bruno and most people are going for Salah and the template kind of already build a bit of a lead on you. Firmino confirmed out. Jota definitely starting and probably 90 minutes, says Harry Dawson. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, if I had Jota anyway, I'd be keeping him because even with a 20-30 minute cameo appearance, I think he could still do damage. Wan-Bissaka or Digne? Honestly, I prefer Wan-Bissaka. I just don't like Everton defensively too much. However, if you're going for United defender, most people are just going to be going for Shaw anyway. I do like Wan-Bissaka though, and he did get more points than Digne and Shaw last season. Thoughts about Andre Gray, 5.5 million? Damari Gray says Drummond. Once again, just like with all the 5.5 million midfielders, it's a wait and see. So far, Mbeumo looks like the best 5.5 million midfielder, but other than that, I just want to wait and see with the rest of them. And to be honest, it's kind of a difficult price point because, they're pretty much your 5th midfielder. They're going to be on your bench most of the time, but it's a bit expensive to have on your bench on most game weeks. So really, if they blank, as the Flying Dutchman said, they're not really much better off than a 4.5 million midfielder. And with that extra million, you could spend it elsewhere. So yeah, at the moment, I'm just not really considering Damari Gray or the rest. But of course, it's worth keeping an eye on them. Christopher says, when will we know if Salah and Antonio are on international duty for Game Week 4? Hopefully soon so we can plan. That's actually a really good point. Thank you for bringing that up, Christopher. If I'm being honest, I don't completely know about that. However, I would suspect by, I'd say, Game Week 3. So when that deadline approaches, we definitely should know by then because the international squads should be released. Then again, think of it from Liverpool's point of view. They're not going to be willing for that to happen. And midway through the season, around January, February, Salah, Mane and all these players going to the African Cup of Nations, they're going to be missing a very significant portion of the Premier League season. So maybe these kind of games leading up to that, I think Liverpool and all these Premier League clubs will be a bit firm and maybe tell them to stay. So that's another possibility there. So, of course, we don't know that for sure, but I would suspect that within the next week or so, we should know that. Son out, Mahrez in. Is it a wise decision? I mean, I get the appeal. You're targeting the fixture. However, I wouldn't be getting rid of Son, to be honest. And, if Kane is still out, Son's going to be the talisman. Everything goes through him. But, of course, Spurs are a very funny team, very iffy. Should I do Buendia to Benrahma? Very tough. I wouldn't do it this week, to be honest. I think Buendia could outscore Benrahma this week. However, going into game week 3 or 4, I'd probably say go for it. Drummond says hold Buendia. Yeah, I'd hold Buendia for the next 2 fixtures, probably. Any TV series or movie suggestions? I mean, to be honest, yeah, TV series definitely Breaking Bad, The Wire, Daredevil. Obviously, that's kind of a big kind of switch there, but yeah, I'd say one of those 3 shows for sure. I like Ozark. There's quite a lot of shows I like, to be fair. Narcos, first season and second season. As for movies, Lord of the Rings trilogy, Matrix, Shawshank Redemption, The Godfather trilogy, Goodfellas, Casino. There's so many films. Literally the other day, I think I watched American Gangster. Yeah, there's so many films to watch, mate. I'd have to make a long list to be honest. Pogba or Greenwood? I still prefer Greenwood, Rohan, to be honest. With Pogba, I want to see a bit more consistency. With Greenwood, I know he's always going to be in those advanced positions, and even if Pogba, produces brilliant passes, they might not be converted. So yeah, I'd probably just say Greenwood. Sarr or Harrison from game week 4? Tough question. Very tough. To be honest, long term, and I'm talking about really long term, I'd probably prefer Harrison, but for the next few weeks, even from game week 4, I'd say Sarr. Do you think Arsenal will stay up? Well, thank you for that, mate. I think they will, even if Ramsdale has that curse where, whenever he joins a club, they get relegated or something like that. Or he's been relegated at least 2 seasons in a row. But yeah, I think Arsenal will stay up. Mate, thoughts on Mahrez? I think he's one of the best, kind of outside captaincy shouts this week. I think he will start for sure. So yeah, there's a lot to like with Mahrez. If you have him, definitely don't get rid of him. The Flying Dutchman says, thanks Dylan, have a good holiday. Looking forward to future streams, videos. Really appreciate it, mate. And literally very, not much left of this holiday now. But yeah, it's been going really well. Thank you for all the comments and for all the positivity. Really appreciate it, mate. And enjoy the rest of your night. Trent captaincy looks good knowing the Salah record. Yeah, I mean, I get what you mean there, but then again, if you have Bruno Fernandes, you can always go for him. That's just the way I see it. But of course, Trent is not a bad captaincy shout. I'm not trying to insinuate that in any way. But personally, for me, Bruno and Salah are the standout captaincy options this week. Also Mahrez. But then again, if you have a gut feeling about Trent, go for it. I'm not going to talk you out of it. Any new players you're taking for this weekend? Barnes for Torres Norwich match. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I probably wouldn't do that because Torres might not even start, potentially. Any new players you're taking? Yeah, I'm not going to make any transfers if that's what you mean. Andy says, evening pal, currently sitting on top of your league. Damn, that's really good, mate. And, there's some very high scores in the league, so that's really impressive, Andy. Congratulations, mate. Triple captain Bruno this week and brought Greenwood in for Havertz. You know what, mate? I think I'm going to triple captain Bruno too. If you're top of the league and you're doing that, maybe it's worth, kind of doing what you do. But yeah, that's really good, mate. And I completely understand why you'd think of triple captaining Bruno. Very early on, but very good record against Southampton. He's never blanked against them. Might be worth it. Sopranos, yeah, that's another one, Harry. I haven't watched it myself, but I've heard very good things. And from the clips I've seen, fantastic show. And that's, one of the next few that I'm going to be looking at. And, I'm still relatively young. So I've got a lot of time, well, hopefully, to kind of watch all these other top-tier shows and films. Evening all. Thank you, FPL Rubber Ducky. Good to see you on here. Rasmus says Lukaku, not considering him until I'd say game week 7. And that's, coincidentally, as pointed out by a viewer earlier, when Bruno Fernandes and Man United's fixtures kind of turn for the worse. So that could be maybe worth doing 2 free transfers, getting rid of Bruno and getting Lukaku in, or if not, playing the wild card. And if you look at Lukaku's record against Arsenal, I expect him to score, by the way, this weekend, but very poor record. I think he's got 2 goals in 13, 15 appearances, so really poor. Is it wise to use wildcard if I scored 50 points in game week 1? It depends. I wouldn't make a reactionary wildcard in game week 2 because you scored 50 points only and everyone's getting 100 points or whatever. I wouldn't really be thinking about that because it could be the kind of the contrary going into game week 2. Everyone else could have a really poor week and you have a really good week with the team you currently have. So honestly, I wouldn't just wildcard based on, the recent results like that. I would try to avoid being reactionary. With the wildcard, what you want to do is be proactive, target fixture swings, and kind of identify these players who could begin to do really well. Not just because of the fixtures, but also because of underlying stats and all of that. Between Barnes, Antonio, Rafinha, Benrahma, I have benched Barnes. Am I right? I personally would bench Rafinha, but I understand why you bench Barnes, Ninad, and it's good to see you on here. Obviously, you tend to play UCL Fantasy, and UCL Fantasy is now live, and when I get back to London, I will be doing more content for that as well, along with all the new FPL videos and live streams to come, so stay tuned for that. Who surely starts? KDB, Gundogan, Mahrez, all. Gundogan and Mahrez, I'd suspect, start Yogesh, but as for KDB, Pep said we have to wait and see, so he's the kind of one who's not a certainty. Trent, captaincy, too crazy? I wouldn't say it's too crazy. It's just not something I would consider myself, but I wouldn't say it's too crazy. I bench boosted in Game Week 1 and was planning an early wild card or maybe Game Week 4, but honestly, looking at my squad, it looks fine. Exactly. If you look at your squad and you like it, and you don't really see too many things you change, then I think it's just pointless to use the wild card early. Salah could be a transfer out, then back in if he goes to international duty. That's worth considering as well. Within the next week or so, we should know about that situation, and then we can plan accordingly. Saving wildcard for later, then maybe. Yeah, same with me, to be honest. At least that's what I'm looking to do. But then again, things can change. I could always play in Game Week 4, Game Week 7, maybe Game Week 10, or maybe later. It's good to keep your options open. Don't have Bruno. Why? I said Trent captain. Fair enough. Don't fancy Salah on a Saturday morning, lol. And yeah, there's also this thing about, the early kickoff, the captaincy, and, the players you have, they tend to not really perform as you expect. I'm not so sure about that. Obviously, it's kind of a biased, opinion to make, although it has happened to me myself. To be honest, yeah, I get why you're doing it. Trent is a good captaincy shout. I'm just not going to go for it myself. To the Trent captaincy guy, go for it. Last season, I captained Dallas twice and hauled both times. Yeah, that's fair enough, Lipuk. Sometimes going different is what separates you from the rest of the pack. Everyone could be going for Salah or Bruno, one of them blanks, and you get Trent and he does really well. And then you build a very big advantage. Can I join your league? Of course you can, mate. So on the left-hand side of your screen, there is the league code where it says league, and then there's the colon. So 886 RGT, that is the code. If not, what you can do is go to the description of this video and there is the auto join link. So you literally just click on the link and you're automatically in it. If not, there's also the code. You can copy and paste it onto the FPL website and you are now part of the Dylan RCM League. So yeah, of course, anyone's free to join. There's actually a lot of members. I haven't counted or I haven't checked the numbers, but a fair few hundred. So really appreciate everyone who did join the league, and hopefully someone in the league, maybe wins the whole thing. You never know. Or if not, at least just really high finishes and just doing extremely well. That's obviously the kind of hope there. Got 108 points before people think I'm crazy to go without Bruno and want to captain Trent. I wouldn't really care what people think, to be honest, Harry. If you have a gut feeling, go for it. And you got 108 points. You don't kind of need someone else's validation for your decision. So yeah, I think go for it if you really fancy it. And if you don't fancy Salah, then why captain him? It just wouldn't make sense. Should I go Rafinha to Benrahma, says Thierry Henry. The thing is, if you started with Rafinha, you're probably looking more long-term about that. And United was always going to be a tough fixture. Even if Leeds scored, would it be Rafinha being involved? There's no guarantee. With Rafinha, though, with the next few fixtures, I think he's fixture-proof. So are Leeds. I expect him to score plenty of goals, even in the tough matches. I probably would still keep Rafinha, at least for the next few. But of course, if it comes apparent that Rafinha is not really delivering the goods and Benrahma continues to do so, then it might be worth it. Of course, Benrahma is going to keep on going up in price. Rafinha might go down eventually, although I doubt it. But yeah, I'd probably keep Rafinha for now, personally. Oh, Jesus, voice crack. Any good differentials? Okay, well, no, one would be captaining Mahrez, for example, if you have him. Differentials. That's a good question, actually. I might actually check the website now, check the latest ownership, because I'll be honest, I've literally just been on holiday the whole time. The only thing I've actually done with FPL is literally just set my team up and have it ready for next week. But yeah, I'll check the ownerships. A lot of things have changed. Let's kind of identify some differentials for you. I won't look at goalkeepers really, because there's not really a differential goalkeeper, and also the kind of point ceiling is quite low. So let's look at team selected by. Damn, look at Luke Shaw. All right, so I'd be looking at maybe Cancelo. Cancelo 7.3% for a fixture like Norwich. I think he could be one to look out for. Wan-Bissaka, instead of going for Luke Shaw, I think Wan-Bissaka could be a nice differential. Obviously, he's close to 10% ownership. It's not a big differential, but I think Wan-Bissaka could easily outscore Luke Shaw. He tends to get yellow cards. I kind of mixed up there. Less yellow cards or fewer yellow cards. And that also plays a part in the bonus points he accumulates compared to Shaw. And he can, I wouldn't say match him, although he did last season and he got one more goal. But I think Wan-Bissaka could get a similar amount of attack and goal contributions compared to Shaw. So he's another one to consider. And as for other defenders, I think Duffy, as pointed out by a viewer earlier, should continue to start, especially with Byrne, Veltman and Lamptey out. 4 million, 4.8% ownership, he's definitely one to look out for. Other than that, you're going to mainly be looking long-term like Cody, for example. He's a kind of differential right now, but I wouldn't be looking at him for the next few game weeks. So yeah, to be honest, I'm not going to give you too many names in defence. You mainly want to be looking at differentials in midfield and the attack. So let's go to the midfielders and let's try to identify some. So one differential, yeah, Mahrez, and especially if you captain him, not many people are going to be doing that, even if they own him. Who else? I think Sar's a good differential, at least for the next few game weeks. Gundogan, yeah, but I wouldn't go for him probably. And who else is there? Oh, Kevin De Bruyne. Imagine if he starts at 2.8% ownership, but no, I mean, there's a big kind of if there. But maybe going into future game weeks, even against Arsenal in game week 3, I think De Bruyne should be starting in that, and I think he could do really well. He's on penalties, or he could be on penalties, on set pieces. He could easily destroy Arsenal there. So he's a good differential going long term, I think. Other than that, though, I'm not really going to be recommending too many of these players. Maybe Dele Alli as a differential, and if you don't have Son, although I don't think he's good coverage for him, but yeah, those are the kind of players I'd be recommending if you're looking for differentials. As for forwards, this is kind of a bit more difficult because a lot of people have free strikers. I'm not really too keen on these a lot, to be honest. Maybe Raul Jimenez, but I'm mainly looking at him from game weeks 4 onwards rather than right now. I'd say him as a differential. The rest, everyone kind of knows the names already. They're very popular for a reason. So let me try to catch up to all the people that I've missed out on. So apologies for that. Bench 1, Tony, Target, Soufal, Shaw, says Tushar. Good question. I probably would bench Soufal from those 4. Start Tony or Sarr? What do you think? I'd definitely start Sarr because he's the kind of main man for Watford. Tony. Oh, actually, my bad. Actually, for a second thought you said Deeney. I don't know why. I apologise for that. But you know what? That's a tough one. That's really tough. I'd probably start Tony, but yeah, that's a tough one, man. They're both really good. If you can, maybe bench someone else. But yeah, I'd probably start Tony. Thanks, Dylan. Good info as usual. All the best of luck. Thank you, Clifford. Same with you. And hopefully you do really well. Okay, then. Trent it is anyway. If it fails, there are 36 game weeks left. Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. It's very early on in the season. That's another one captaining Trent in the stream. So looks like it could be a bit popular this week. 68 points, no Fernandes. Should I just captain Mahrez? I wouldn't worry too much about what you got in game week 1. It's very early days anyway. You can easily make up the 30-40 points on the rest of the pack. You know what? If you don't have Bruno, but I'm assuming you have Salah, I'd probably just captain either Mahrez or Salah, depending on who you think will do well. So if you have a good feeling about Mahrez, go for it. Dylan, thoughts on Chelsea from game week 7? It's definitely something I'm worth considering. Maybe on a wild card, I could get 2 or 3 Chelsea players in. I mean, those set of fixtures are, literally unmatchable, unrivaled, fantastic. You'd want to have probably 1, maybe 2 Chelsea defenders and maybe Lukaku up front, if not Kai Havertz in midfield or someone else like Mason Mount. But I think Lukaku, Chilwell, maybe Rudiger, that would be the kind of main 3 you want to look at. So it's worth keeping an eye on and having a note of it. But of course, you don't want to kind of jeopardize the short term as well by looking too far ahead. So maybe 1 Chelsea player right now is good, but in game week 7 onwards, I think 2 or 3 is definitely worth it. The Burnley goal versus Brighton was a bit annoying for me. Tarkowski clearly pushed Malpai for it. Yeah, I think it could have been disallowed, to be honest, but at the end of the day, it wasn't, and it was an early clean sheet wipeout for everyone who had Sanchez and all these kind of Brighton defenders like Dunk. It is what it is, though. But yeah, I think Burnley were just causing all sorts of problems for Brighton from set pieces, so that's something worth considering. Was 88 points good for last week, or am I far behind? It's good, definitely good. 88 points to start the season is, I would have taken that for sure before game week 1. So it's definitely a good start. You're not too far off, Most people, the average is technically around, in the 60s. So yeah, you're fine really. I wouldn't worry too much about it, and 88 is a good score. If Emmanuel Dennis scores this weekend, the hype train is going to be massive. 5.5 million nailed forward. I don't think he's completely nailed, but it's definitely something, very, very promising. Him and Salah are definitely looking like the standouts from Watford attack. And yeah, Emmanuel Dennis had the most shots in the box in the last game week, so very, very promising stuff, and he could, with the underlying stats he has, conceivably keep it up. In which game week are you wildcarding and why, by the way? I'm not completely settled on it, as I said before. I'm not completely settled on wildcarding in a particular game week, but I'm thinking of potentially game week 7. If not, maybe looking forward, maybe game week 10 or beyond. But yeah, to be honest, I don't want to kind of nail it in right now. And the reason why is because I want to keep my options open. So that would be my kind of explanation for that. Thoughts on Bryan Gil? I want to see more from him and Spurs first. And he's not completely nailed anyway. So yeah, in terms of in real life, he looks like a really promising player. But from a fantasy perspective, you probably want to kind of wait and see first. Dallas or Harrison? I prefer Harrison this season. If Dallas was a defender, then I'd probably still go for Dallas. But yeah, I prefer Harrison, to be honest, this season. And thank you everyone who is watching. Really appreciate it. Of course, this is kind of an early deadline stream compared to the usual. But, if you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. And yeah, turn on notifications for future videos. And remember to share this video around with people who love FPL and football. And also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's Dylan_RCM. You can talk to me there. You can see all the latest updates for my channel. Also talk about football and FPL. See all the latest news and all of that good stuff. And yeah, just always trying to keep active on those platforms too. Same with YouTube. So yeah, remember to do those things. And let's get back to my team. I'll answer any kind of last questions there before wrapping up. But when I come back from my holiday, I'll be looking to do even more videos and deadline streams. And UCL Fantasy is coming around the corner. And definitely going to be sinking my teeth into that as well. So it's worth doing all of that good stuff. And yeah. Did you go Spanish? Did you do Spanish at school? Those pronunciations are great. Well, I am from Argentina technically, so that's kind of why I'm fluent in Spanish. But I did also study Spanish at school, funny enough, both at GCSEs and A-level. Neil Malpai says Drummond. As an option, not for me, to be honest. Just with Brighton's kind of thing about XG as well, no. There's a lot of options around 6 to 8 million, so I'm not considering Malpai. Any thoughts on Son captaincy for next week? I think it could be a good, kind of outside pick. I probably wouldn't go for it though. I think Bruno and Salah are the standouts. There's also Mahrez. I think with Son though, in game weeks 3 and 4, that's when you could arguably go for him captaincy, especially in game week 3 when Salah has Chelsea. I think Son could be the best one there. Any replacements for Traore Villa? That's a good question actually. Let me actually check. So obviously, kind of excuse my ignorance here, but let me check his price. Oh, I can't even spell. Not surprised there. Midfielders. So he is 6 million. I think Benrahma is a very good like-for-like replacement. The only kind of bad thing I could see about that is potentially already priced out of that move. And if you already have Antonio double up in West Ham attack, maybe you're not too keen on it. But I think Benrahma or Sarr would be the kind of best oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. What happened there? Best transfers to make. Excuse that background noise. Anyway. Is Obafemi a good one, and is he a 100% starter? He's not a 100% starter, and he's just literally a 4.5 million option to have on the bench. It will be Adam Armstrong starting for Southampton. He scored on his debut against Everton. Duffy or Tsimikas? Duffy had 4 shots, goal incoming. Well, so long as Tsimikas starts, I prefer him. He plays in a much better team, and he actually still offers a lot of attacking potential, mainly from kind of crosses, set pieces, and 13 crosses I think he made last week, although none of them were successful. But I think going forward, Duffy could be the next best thing at 4 million. So that's something worth keeping an eye on, to be fair. But yeah, I think Tsimikas right now, Duffy going forward, and as you said, 4 shots. I wouldn't say a goal is incoming for sure, but it's a possibility. So why not? That is something worth looking at. So in terms of kind of finalizing my team. Right now, Sanchez in goal, nothing's going to change there. I'm not going to be making a goalkeeper transfer. Tsimikas, Trent, double up in Liverpool defence, and Luke Shaw. My midfield is going to be Greenwood, Bruno captain for now, Barnes and Salah. And of course, I'm pretty much just going to be, the final decision is, who do I go for as captain, Bruno or Salah? And my attack, Ings, Antonio and Tony. And my bench is going to be the exact same. Ayling first, White second, Brownhill third. No changes there. I think I'm going to be holding the transfer. And Salah or Bruno, the captaincy choice. Who knows who I'm going to go for, but that is pretty much it in terms of my team. And if you have any final questions, then please let me know, and I will get to them before wrapping up. I have 6 million in the bank. Benrahma is 6.1. Should I get Sarr, Harrison, or Soucek? Ooh. Yeah, I prefer Sarr, at least for the time being. Long term, I really like Harrison. I think he's a good option. But I probably will go for Sarr from those options, Britain, to be honest. I think he looks like the main standout there anyway. So yeah, that's what I'd probably go for. Let's see. Tempted to bring in a Man City player. Shall bring in Gundogan instead of Barnes or Jesus for Ings. I wouldn't get rid of Ings for Jesus, to be honest, because Jesus isn't even nailed. City could play with, for example, in one game week when KDB is fit, he could be the false nine. If not, it could be Ferran Torres playing up front. They have different options. They could even play, Foden when he comes back as a false nine, or Bernardo Silva, and if they get a striker as well, of course. So honestly, Gundogan for Barnes, it would make sense for this game week, but you don't have to have a Man City player. If you had the money, I would say maybe get Mahrez for the next few game weeks, but other than that, I don't think you have to. What are your transfer plans for game week 3? Yeah, to be honest, I've got my options open, but I think, kind of barring any suspensions, injuries and stuff like that, I think I'd be looking at maybe Harvey Barnes potentially, if not in game week 4. Getting rid of him for someone else like Benrahma or Sarr. There's quite a lot of options around that price bracket. If not, maybe Ben White going to another defender, probably a cheap one. Brownhill to Gilmore. Other than that, though, yeah, it's mainly kind of looking at game week 4, to be honest. I think Barnes, after the Norwich fixture, he could be making way. Danny Ings, after Aston Villa's first great set of fixtures, and then the fixture swing is just awful. So that's when I could get rid of him for another 7.5 or 8 million striker. But other than that, I think I'm not gonna I want to keep my options open. I don't want to confine myself to a plan already that's set in stone. I want to keep my options open, but it probably involve Barnes, Ings, White, or Brownhill. Pretty much. That's there's not really much more to it at the moment. Got in Region this week. Thoughts on him? I mean, fair enough. Green Arrow every week, and that's a really good name, mate. Hopefully that rings true for everyone here. I think Region from Spurs defence is probably the kind of standout there with the attacking potential he has. If Spurs, play free at the back most of the time, Region as a left wing back getting into advanced positions, he could be, one of the best options at 5 million. But yeah, honestly, it's kind of a wait and see at the moment with him and Spurs in general, and they're still capable of losing to anyone, as they showed the other day to Pacos Ferreira. Benrahma essential this game week, or probably bang the transfer? I don't think he's essential, because if you already have Antonio, for example, you already cover West Ham pretty well, and Leicester is still a tough opponent. Although I expect potentially a high scoring game, end to end, action packed, you don't have to have Benrahma. I don't think he's essential. Christopher says, just had a look, and game week 7 honestly looks like an amazing wildcard time. Chelsea fixture turn, Arsenal fixture turn, if they look decent, loads more. Exactly, and even United in a way. I think they have a fixture swing for the worst. Let's actually check. Look at the fixtures for Man United from game week 7 onwards. Everton at home, Leicester away, Liverpool at home, Tottenham away, Man City at home, Watford away, Chelsea away, Arsenal at home. Those are awful fixtures where, to be honest, at 12 million... with Bruno Fernandes, or 12.1 as he is now, you probably wouldn't want to have him for those game weeks, because even if he does well, he can even get some double digits here and there, you're not going to be captaining him, so why have 12 million invested in someone when you can maybe go to Lukaku or someone else like Son? I think game week 7 is looking like a really popular and ideal time to wildcard, to be honest. I already have Benrahma and Greenwood. says Ahmed. Yeah, I get what you mean. I probably would just keep Barnes, to be honest, and Danny Ings for the time being. Why Bruno over Salah as captain? Well, it's not set in stone, if I'm being honest. I might change it in the end, but what I like about Bruno is his record against Southampton. He's got 2 goals and 4 assists in 3 appearances against Southampton. I don't like Southampton's defence. They obviously lost Vestergaard and Ryan Bertrand to Leicester City. And with Salah against Burnley, I think he's going to do well, and he's playing in front of a full capacity crowd pretty much at Anfield, and Salah does really well in those sorts of situations. But Burnley could still potentially frustrate them. But yeah, you know what? To be honest, I expect both of them to score points, and it's literally just a matter of landing it on the higher scoring player. It's a tough one. Salah's going to be the most popular choice, not as popular as last week. But yeah, I think Bruno's a good alternative, and I wouldn't say he's a differential in any way as a captaincy, but he's not going to be at least his effective ownership isn't going to be as high. There's no right or wrong here, but I wouldn't really entirely base it off previous records against these teams, but Salah does have 1 goal in 6 appearances against Burnley. These kind of things do play a part, and I think Mane actually tends to do better against Burnley than Salah does, and with Bruno, I expect everything to go through him against Southampton, whether it's going to be goals, assists, set pieces, etc. So that's why at the moment I'm going for Bruno, but I might change it, to be honest. I think Jesus to Ings is a downgrade, says her. Yeah, I agree. Or at least, Ings to Jesus, getting rid of Ings. Not captaining Salah. I might, but at this moment in time, I'm not captaining Salah. I'm going for Bruno at the moment. Salah to Son in Game Week 3 looks good. Yeah, especially if Salah is going to be missing Game Week 4. That's actually a good shout in ad. So that's why I'm really eager to hold my transfer and have 2 free transfers going into Game Week 3. Because if I do something like that, where I'm prepared to go without Salah for 2 game weeks, then it's just kind of worth having those transfers in the bank and not, spending hits. Benrahma or Buendia? For this game week, I prefer Buendia, but overall, Benrahma is probably the better pick. There's a lot of talk around Mbeumo. They have good fixtures as well. Any thoughts? Well, if you already have Tony, doubling up on Brentford attack I wouldn't say it's ideal, to be honest. With double ups in attack, they can be good, but you'd honestly want to do that for teams like West Ham, Man United, Man City, Liverpool, even Chelsea conceivably, and Spurs, Son and Kane, for example. But yeah, Mbeumo is a good option. If you don't have Tony, you could go for Mbeumo as your 5th midfielder. I think he's the best 5.5 million midfielder at the moment. That could change, of course, but just looks so lively, gets into great positions, fantastic dribbler. So yeah, he's definitely one to keep an eye on. And I think if Brentford win games, obviously, or if they do well, Mbeumo's going to be really high up on the bonus points, I think. Him, Tony, and maybe someone else. When is the deadline? The deadline is tomorrow at 11 a.m, I believe. Let me just double check that quickly. 11 a.m. UK time, so BST, British Summer Time. So yeah, that is the deadline. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. I'm just doing a deadline stream right now because I'm on a holiday. Also just to answer all your questions in detail. And I'll probably be busy tomorrow morning. So I want to kind of have everything set before the deadline. Triple captain Salah. It's a shout, but honestly, I wouldn't do it myself because I'm not that convinced about Salah against Burnley anyway. But of course, he could always do really well. He's fixture proof. He can do well against anyone, even if he's only got 1 goal in 6 appearances against Burnley. I think he can get 2 or 3 goals easily, to be honest, or goal contributions. So, go for it if you back it or if you have a really good gut feeling about it. But I probably wouldn't do that. Just a note, Salah's never scored in Game Week 2, says Rai. If that's true, then that's a fantastic stat that you just brought up there and something that I actually haven't seen mentioned by anyone there. So if that's true, that is one hell of a stat. But he's still going to be my vice-captain at the very least. But yeah, that's worth considering as well, maybe. Play Ali or Barnes? It's really tough. I mean, I prefer Barnes in general, but yeah, I'd probably play Ali, I guess, but I'm just not too keen on him, to be honest. Not at the moment anyway. I want to see more. Evening, Dylan. Salah to KDB and Gundogan to Jota next week in order to beat Salah price drop after the game week ends. Wow, that's really bold of you. Damn, yeah. I mean, just thinking of it now, but fair enough. You still have them for this week. But yeah, I wouldn't really kind of think about price drops too much. I wouldn't let it affect your decision making. And of course, if it becomes apparent that Salah is going to be staying in Liverpool and not going on international duty, then you probably would want to keep him, even across that game week 3 fixture. Rice says, thank you so much for your inputs last season. My first ever top 1k finish. Really appreciate it, mate. And of course, these are just videos, of course, where we can engage and, discuss FPL and football. Ultimately, it's up to you, with the decisions you make, but really appreciate that. And top 1k finish, that's really impressive. I'm looking to do that this season if possible, but of course, it's really tough to do that. And there's this kind of saying right now that the new top 10k is the top 50k, so it's just getting harder and harder to kind of break into these really, elite level ranks. So, really good that you did that. How about Everton players? They have good fixtures, I think. They do, Jack. I think Calvert-Lewin is the main one I'm looking at, to be honest, and it's the same thing from before. Him and Digne were always in my thinking, but ultimately it's Calvert-Lewin right now. I just don't trust Everton's defence too much. But I do like the look of Calvert-Lewin and Everton's attack. They look really good in game week 1. So that's something worth considering. And I think what I would do is Danny Ings to Calvert-Lewin in game week 4. That is something that I'm potentially considering. But of course, it depends on Salah's situation. It depends on Harvey Barnes and the other kind of transfers I was already thinking about. How about considering a City player like Mahrez or even Gundogan? Of course, it's worth considering them. And I think Mahrez is the standout from City. But I wouldn't be bringing in Gundogan ahead of this game week, despite how good it looks on paper. Hi, Jota or Benrahma? To bring someone in, that's tough because long term I'd prefer Benrahma. He's going to be more nailed, and I just expect him to outscore Jota, and he's at a cheaper price. However, for this game week, I prefer Jota, and if you have Jota already, don't get rid of him yet. Keep him for now, and then maybe get rid of or get Benrahma in. What's your score prediction for Arsenal versus Chelsea this game week? So that's kind of interesting you say that. So one thing I was considering, and obviously let me know in the live chat, is to have a game week preview every single time, where I look at last week's results, talk about them, and talk about the bonus points, and talk about the best FPL players, and do the same for the upcoming game week, and then do my score predictions, and also talking about just the kind of best players from each game that you can have. As for your question, it's a very good one. Arsenal-Chelsea. I'd probably say 2-1 Chelsea, and that's me being a bit optimistic there. But yeah, I expect Chelsea to win the game. It could maybe be a draw. Arteta's actually got a really good record against Chelsea, only lost once, but I don't really see Arsenal getting something from the game. Hopefully I'm wrong and Arsenal beat them. I actually hate Chelsea, to be honest. Why I'm not captaining Salah is because Burnley like to stay compact. I think they'll be difficult to break down, so Bruno for me. Fair enough. I mean, defensively, I don't think they're as compact as they used to be, and that's something I've said in this stream and also in previous videos. And if you look at the stats, like shots in the box conceded, shots overall, Burnley were 18th, 19th and 20th, in these kind of underlying stats in the league. So it's not looking too good. But then again, it's based on one game, and they were facing Brighton, who had a pretty good game overall, to be honest. But yeah, I get what you mean there, and Salah can struggle. He's not going to have as much space to run in behind, at least that's what you'd think. So I get your logic there. And I don't know, there's something about Bruno this week that just makes me want to go for him, but of course it can backfire. Should I keep Nacho? Very good question, to be honest. If you're kind of prepared for the occasional benching, which could be this week, or if not in game week 3, then I just keep him for now. But ultimately, I'd be looking to get rid of him for another 7.5 or 8 million striker. Sell Gundogan or hold and get minus 0.1. I just hold. I don't care about the price rise or price fall, to be honest. I just keep him, to be honest. I wouldn't let price rises affect your thinking. Of course, it's not ideal. You want to kind of build up team value from the get-go. But I wouldn't worry about it too much. It shouldn't be the kind of main focus of your decisions. Jota or Benrahma, says Chris. So as I said before, I'd say Jota for this week. Yeah, you saw my reply. That's good. Thanks for your insight. You have got yourself another sub. Thank you, Pretend. Really appreciate it. And I am on holiday right now, but there will be more videos to come for UCL Fantasy and FPL. Same with live streams, so stay tuned. I'm looking to do even more content this season. Really appreciate that, mate. Sell Gundogan and get Grealish. I wouldn't do that. That's, in my opinion, a bit sideways. Yeah, Grealish might be in more advanced positions most of the time, but there's kind of no guarantee he's going to be getting the goal contributions there. It could easily be Gundogan himself. So Honestly, I just keep Gundogan, Philander. Score predictions for this game week roughly when you get a chance. Okay. So I'm guessing you're saying for all the games. So let's go through that now, since I haven't obviously made a preview yet, but that's something I'm looking to do in the channel. So Liverpool versus Burnley. Let's look at that, and that looks pretty fine, to be honest, on the screen. Liverpool versus Burnley. This is tough. I mean, I'm going to try to keep these snappy, so I'm just literally going to kind of say the first thing that comes to mind. Liverpool-Burnley, I would expect 3-1 is the first score that comes to mind, so I'll probably go for that. Aston Villa against Newcastle. And you know what, actually, let's kind of get into the groove here. I'll start to kind of just highlight the main FPL players from these games. They might seem a bit obvious, of course, but Liverpool, I'd expect Mane actually to be the kind of standout player here. I think Salah can maybe get an assist or a goal. Funnily enough, I think, one of the fullbacks, Tsimikas or Trent, I think they're going to do really well. But of course, it can always be someone random. There is also Jota, to be fair, and Firmino, who apparently is ruled out for this game. Aston Villa against Newcastle. Oh my God, this is a tough one. My God, I should have probably thought about these before, coming on into the live stream. Aston Villa, Newcastle. I would probably actually still suspect Aston Villa to win this game. Both teams to score. I'd go for 2-1 Aston Villa. Main man, I think Danny Ings probably from this game. Looking at other players, would it be someone else? I'm not sure. Danny Ings is kind of the main guy, I think. Crystal Palace against Brentford. Ooh, this is a tough game to call, to be honest. I can see a draw here. I don't know why, and I might be completely wrong here. I think I'd go for 1-1 or 1-1, and I expect Tony or Mbeumo to be kind of involved there for Brentford, and for Crystal Palace, probably Zaha. But of course, that's a bit of a generic one there. Leeds versus Everton, really tough. Everton actually beat them last season at Ellen Road, but then Leeds, kind of returned the favour, or was the other way around. But Leeds actually beat Everton at Goodison Park. Leeds-Everton, this is a tough one. This could easily be another draw. I'd probably go for Leeds. Wait, do I go Leeds? I'm not actually sure about this. I might go for another draw, actually. I'm going to go for 2-2, YOLO. Go for 2-2. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin is going to do the business again. He's going to have a good start to the season. And as for Leeds, I'd expect Bamford to get firing. Man City against Norwich. Honestly, I'd probably go for... They haven't scored in the last 3 games, Man City. The Champions League final, the Community Shield, and Game Week 1 against Spurs. I expect Man City to put 4 past Norwich, to be honest. 4-0. And I think Mahrez is going to have a really good game. Brighton against Watford. If only all the games were as simple to predict as Man City Norwich. Brighton against Watford. Another tough game on paper. I'd probably go for another 2-1, and I'm going for Brighton. And maybe Maupay will score in this one. Again, continue his goal-scoring run. He actually tends to start the season well. I think last season he was one of the highest-scoring forwards at the beginning. I'd probably go for 2-1 Brighton. Southampton against Man United. And of course, my apologies for all the comments that are coming in. I'll be answering them very soon. Southampton against Man United. Honestly, I'll probably go for 4-1 Man United. And I think Bruno and Greenwood, honestly, I think them two are going to be the main ones. Wolves against Spurs. I think this could be a kind of tough game. Could even be a draw. Wolves could sneak something in, but I'd probably just go for Spurs. Especially if Kane is back. I'd go for 2... Should I? 2-1 Spurs. Yeah, 2-1 Spurs. And I think Son could have a really good game, of course. I'm kind of going for the main guys here. Arsenal-Chelsea, as I said before, I go for 2-1 Chelsea. And I expect Lukaku to kind of, I wouldn't say break his curse, but he's got a really poor record against Arsenal. I expect him to score on his debut, on his return. So yeah, 2-1 Chelsea. West Ham against Leicester. I expect this to be a high-scoring game. Who do I go for, though? This is the good question about it. And Leicester have actually been good defensively recently. I was going to say something like 3-2, to be honest, which is the score last season, I believe. Oh, this is tough. This is really tough. I actually cannot call this one. Might go for another draw, maybe. But you know what? Oh, damn, this is tough. I'll probably go for West Ham 3-2, I guess, but I'm not sure about that one. It could be 3-2 either way, or if not, a draw. Thank you everyone who is still watching. Really appreciate it. So, Rudiger or Jimenez this week to start. Probably I would start... That's tough. I'd start Rudiger, but I could see him in a score against Spurs. He's got a good record against them. I would love that prediction thing there. Fair enough, yeah. That is something I'm looking to do in a prediction video. So that will be... Or in a preview video. So that will be separate to the team selection videos. And also aim to maybe do reaction streams along with the deadline stream. So that's pretty much 2 free videos per week. Also, 2 deadlines or 2 streams per week. And then when UCL Fantasy comes into the mix too, that's a lot of content pretty much every 7 days or so. And yeah, with UCL Fantasy, got a lock in on my first draft as well. So yeah, that's something else worth considering. A pretty decent start from last season's top 1k finish, currently at 115 points from Game Week 1. Damn, I mean, yeah, you finished in the top 1k, 115 points this season. Could be another good one, but of course, early days. But yeah, it's looking really promising, to be honest. Thank you, Dylan, for taking time to answer community questions and for always staying true to how you play FPL. Much appreciated. Really appreciate the comment, mate, Denver. And I'll keep on trying my best, of course. When more people come into the chat, it obviously becomes a bit more difficult to answer every single question. But yeah, I try my best. I really appreciate it, mate. Possible captaincy this week, your suggestions? Honestly, sometimes keeping it simple is the best thing to do. So personal recommendation is Bruno Fernandes. I just have a really good feeling about him this week. But if not, Mohamed Salah. Sadio Mane, if you have him, I think he's a fantastic option this week. There's also Mahrez. Yeah, I'd be looking at one of those for sure. And if not, if you're kind of looking for someone else, maybe Trent, Heung-min Son, Danny Ings, that's kind of the pool of players I'd be looking at. But yeah, they all look really good this week. Is Mahrez a good captaincy differential captain? Yeah, definitely. I think even in terms of like overall captain, he'd be like my 3rd pick this week or 4th. He looks really good. He could even outscore Salah or Bruno, no doubt about it. And he's very explosive. So when Mahrez does get a haul, it tends to be a significant one. So yeah, it's definitely worth considering. Salah, Mahrez, or Bruno captain. I'd probably go for Bruno, but Mahrez is probably the best differential one you can go for. And if he works, it could really propel you up the ranks. I don't know. It's just something about this week that I'm not too keen on Salah, but I could be wrong about it. If you look at it from a logical point of view, the underlying stats, Burnley, one of the worst teams defensively in Game Week 1. Mohamed Salah had the highest expected assists with exactly 1 of any player. And in terms of expected goal involvements, I think he was second, only behind Mikel Antonio. So Mohamed Salah, in terms of the stats, as good as ever. Game Week 1, a fantastic performance, fantastic finish against Norwich, and then 2 good assists. And then, yeah, Bruno Fernandes, in terms of XG, he was right up there. He was getting a lot of big chances. He even created a big chance, actually, for Greenwood, which I didn't mention in my team selection video when I was reviewing my team. But Bruno Fernandes could easily do really well, too. And as for Mahrez, not really any stats to back it up, but I just think Mahrez is going to be very dangerous against Norwich City, to be honest. Leeds Everton going to be an entertaining one. Pretty much every Leeds game is entertaining, but I have a good feeling about good this fixture. I'm guessing you're saying goals. Yeah, I think Everton Leeds is a tough one because Everton look pretty decent in the second half against Southampton. As for Leeds, of course, they got the equaliser against United and then they kind of just capitulated really. But they're facing one of the best teams in the league. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game, to be honest. And it's probably one that if I have the time, I'll probably be looking at that, to be honest. What are your Game Week 3 transfer plans? To be honest, mate, I'm not entirely sure. It also depends on the news we get about Mohamed Salah going on international duty in Game Week 4. Because if that's the case and he misses Game Week 4, he also has a really poor fixture in Game Week 3. It might be worth getting rid of Salah for maybe someone like Son and going without him for maybe 2 free game weeks, really. But of course, Salah is someone you kind of want to have as a set and forget for the season. But yeah, if Salah's fine and he's going to stay and not going on international duty, then I'll just stick with him. And as for the rest of the team, I'd probably be looking to move Ings on in Game Week 4 to another 7.58 million striker, probably Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Maybe Harvey Barnes is someone else who could be on the chopping block after Norwich City in Game Week 3. Other than that, though, it'd be simple transfers like Ben White to another 4.5 million defender maybe, or maybe Sufal if I can upgrade him to the Czech Republic right back. And if not, Brownhill to Gilmore, just a really simple transfer. So those are kind of my transfer plans at the moment. Nothing set in stone. I'm keeping my options open for a reason, but I think it's kind of worth it. Will it be wise for us to go about City assets for most of the season just to avoid heartbreak? Maybe, but to be honest, there could come a point in the season, just like it happened in the last campaign, where they show such great form. They're the most consistent team in the league, and they might offer you some nailed players like Diaz. Maybe Cancelo could start to cement a place again, and you'd want to maybe double up on their defence or something like that. So I wouldn't completely rule them out, but at this moment in time, I'm looking to just kind of go without them. You don't have to have City players, although with these kind of fixtures like Norwich, they might win 5-0, and if you have them, of course, you have a very big rank boost, but it's very difficult to strike that balance and get on and off at the right time. Any opinion on Lukaku? Thanks, says Chris. Honestly, he's someone to kind of assess up until game week 6, when Chelsea have these tough fixtures. And in game week 7, it's something that I kind of alluded to earlier. United have very poor fixtures, and you wouldn't be captaining Bruno most weeks, really. So what you could do is make 2 free transfers in game week 7 or wildcard, and get rid of Bruno Fernandes, get the money and invest it into your strike force, get Lukaku in then. And from game week 7 to 11, fantastic fixtures. You couldn't ask for any better. So that's something worth considering. But at this moment in time, it's kind of just wait and see. Give a bit of time to Lukaku to kind of adapt to the league again and to Chelsea's system. But I think he's going to have a good spell at Chelsea this time round, and he's going to right the wrongs from last time. Thank you so much, Dylan. You are definitely one of the best FPL content creators out there. Keep it coming. Thank you, Rai. Really appreciate it. Humbled by the support. There's so many FPL content creators right now, so it's crazy. But I really appreciate your kind words, and hope to see you back here soon. Red's the best, says Hitchim. Dark Runner says, this made me panic. Thought there was a match on today. Also, bench 1 of Dunk or Shaw. I'm a Saints fan, and I'm likely to captain Fernandes. Fair enough. And I remember you are a Saints fan, Dark Runner. I'm just doing the deadline stream now because I'm on holiday, and tomorrow morning I probably won't be able to do the deadline stream anyway. And also, just there's so many people streaming at the same time, it's kind of good to differentiate myself. But as for benching someone from Dunk or Shaw, I'd probably still bench. That's tough. I'd probably bench Dunk because Shaw has attacking potential. However, if I was to say, who's more likely to keep a clean sheet, maybe it is Dunk. So maybe I'm going about it the wrong way. Who do you think is going to be this season's top 4, Dylan? Very good question, Rai. I would probably go for... I'm not sure about the champion yet. City over the last few months haven't really, filled me with confidence, but I think Man City will definitely finish in the top 4. Manchester United, Chelsea and Liverpool. I think in terms of if I had to make a ranking, I'm not entirely sure. I'd probably still go for City first, but I'm not sure about that. Man United second, Chelsea third, Liverpool fourth, something like that. But Chelsea could easily finish second, maybe even win the league. I think it's between one of those teams really. What made you captain Bruno over Salah? Well, it's not set in stone, but the reason why I currently have it on Bruno at the moment is his record against Southampton. Southampton have just lost 2 of their best defenders to Leicester City, and they just look so vulnerable at the back. And Man United, they tend to score a lot of goals really against Southampton. They scored 3 at St Mary's last time, and also the 9-0. Obviously there were a few red cards in there too, but Bruno Fernandes, just like against Leeds, had a very big point score last season, 17 points, and of course you saw what he did in game week 1. He returned the favour once again. Salah against Burnley, I still expect him to do well, but he just doesn't have a really good record against Burnley, and there could be other goal scorers. I expect Mane to be the main guy against Burnley in game week 2, in my opinion. So that's why I'm just going for Bruno Fernandes. These kind of reasons. There's a bit of logic to them, but then again, it's all down to opinions and, what kind of makes you decide a certain captain. At the moment, I'm going for Bruno, but if I do change, I will let you guys know in the community tab and also on Twitter. So obviously stay tuned for that. A very interesting opinion, man. I like that a lot. Thanks. Thank you a lot, Chris. And let me actually remember. The opinion on Lukaku. I just think it's worth looking long term, but also not kind of overcommitting and maybe breaking your team up to get someone like Lukaku in. That's just my opinion. Thanks, Dylan, for your help. As always, love from Malaysia. It's 3:40 a.m. in Malaysia right now, but I've always been watching your content. I'm flattered, mate. 4 a.m. nearly. You might as well go sleep, to be honest. I'm just saying that because whenever I go sleep around that time, I just end up knackered the next day. But I really appreciate that, mate. Big up Malaysia. And I'll try to keep that in mind because, if it's that late on for you, I'm trying to think. Maybe it's better if obviously, yeah, I'll try to maybe do some deadline streams in the or in the afternoon or morning here. So it'll be the afternoon or evening for you. Yeah, that's something worth considering. Thank you for that, mate. Is it worth to transfer out Son for Mahrez only to then transfer him back in the next week? Ooh. I mean, I think it might be worth it, but it's also risky because both of these players you're talking about are fixture proof and they could well easily blank against these kind of lower teams. So honestly, it might be worth it, but it's very risky. And I prefer to kind of hold these assets. That's kind of my play style. But, if you have a good feeling about it, go for it. Trent to Alonso, I wouldn't go for it, right? But of course, you know better than me. You finished in the top 1K and you got over 110 points this week. But yeah, I probably would stick to Trent. Do you think we all maybe jumped the gun on Brighton defence, says Harry? Maybe, but then again, they've had so many injuries in pre-season that it is obviously, we don't know yet. And I would say that probably in the Burnley game, they mainly struggle from set pieces, but I still think they can keep a clean sheet. The goal that Burnley scored, Tarkowski arguably, fouled Malpai, so that's something, to take into account. But I think one is fine. Having one Brighton cover in defence, if it's 4.5 million goalkeeper or defender, completely fine. The problem is when you have two or three. I think that's when you probably, went a bit overkill. But yeah, it's early days, it's just game week 1. 10 a.m. for me in India. Damn, yeah. I mean, I need to, try take into account all these different time zones. 9:40 in South Africa. Damn, I mean, look at these different times. Right now here it's 8:40 in the UK. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it? All these different time zones. And, everyone from all over the world watching these videos, so really appreciate it. Cheers, Dylan. Appreciate these deadline streams. Good luck for Game Week 2. Thank you, WT. Looking to do more streams and videos in the future. Thank you for all the positive feedback and the good questions. Also, South Africa, another one. Yeah, more South Africans in the chat now. And yeah, Malaysia's another one that's really popular, in these live streams. Does Odergard signing hurt Smith Rowe potential? Potentially, Dark Runner, because what this could mean, even if Smith Rowe starts, he could be shifted to the left and Odegaard is going to be the one in the central areas. So I think it does maybe harm him a bit. But then again, with Smith Rowe and Odegaard, they're both kind of players that will probably share the assists between each other and maybe Saka. They're not really going to get 10 assists or more, you'd think, by themselves, but you never know. But yeah, I think it probably will affect them a bit negatively from an FPL perspective. It's okay, Dylan, no problem. I don't mind watching your content. Usually your deadline stream will be around 12:30 in Malaysia. It's just today that it's already 3:40 a.m. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'm literally on holiday right now. And I don't know. It's just the thing that I've put polls up in the past and people have said they prefer these kind of evening streams. From the subscribers, and there's something, well worth taking into account. But, if I do 2 or 3 streams per week, it might be worth kind of having one that's in the morning, having one in the afternoon, and having one in the evening, to kind of, so different people can watch it. But yeah, thank you for that, mate. Harry says, yeah, true. Looked like a foul. And when Byrne and Veltman are back, they add extra height. Completely agree, to be honest. And yeah, you're an Everton fan, aren't you? I mean, I'd like to hear your opinions, Harry, on Everton, but yeah, it looks a bit promising so far. And as for Byrne and Veltman, I mean, who knows when they're going to be back? And Duffy, actually, at 4 million, as pointed out by some viewers in the stream, could well be worth it. Will Torres start, guys, says John Petter. To be honest, mate, I'm not completely sure about that. That's the thing with Torres and City assets. You just don't know when they start and when they get benched, but it's a bit of a lottery. If I had to guess, I think he might, but I just couldn't tell you with any certainty, to be honest. Let me just get back up the chat again. What place do you think Arsenal finished this season? Another good question. Honestly, I think around 8th again, because I gave you my top 4 earlier. I think Leicester and Spurs will finish 5th and 6th. And I think even West Ham, I think, will finish above Arsenal, especially if they get knocked out of Europa League quite early. So yeah, I think Arsenal 8th or 9th, but maybe they'll have a bit of a better season than we expect and they finish 6th or 7th, but I just don't really see them pushing into the top 4. They don't have enough quality. From the last game week, Alonso was seen more in the box than Werner. That's true, but then again, when Chilwell builds up fitness, he will be the main left back or left wing back for Tuchel, you would suspect. But yeah, with Alonso, whenever he plays, he just looks so sharp. He is, an FPL hero for a reason. But yeah, I mean, Alonso is just, when he starts, he's literally you're always kind of excited looking for the big point hauls. So yeah, I completely get that. Norway 942. Wow, Norway as well. Damn, I've checked the kind of channel analytics as well, and Norway is actually also one of the more popular countries in terms of viewership. So yeah, it's just really good to see all these different countries. I am Chilo says, can you play Fortnite? You look like a very good player. You can do 90s. Where did you see this? I mean, I have had some Fortnite clips up in the past. I actually did some streams as well, believe it or not, last year, and I was still doing FPL content as well. As for Fortnite, I'll be honest, I haven't played it in a long time. I used to play a lot of games, and sometimes in squads I'd get quite a few wins in a row and stuff. I was decent, I wasn't anything special on Fortnite. I'm more of a shooter, all the kind of building and stuff. Yeah, it's a bit fun, but I just would rather just get to the shooting, to be honest. But yeah, I'd say I'm decent, nothing special. Haven't played it in a very long time. Bertrand replacement. Says Jimmy. Bertrand replacement at 5 million. I'd probably say Soufal. He's, in my opinion, the best 5 million defender. Do you think Brentford's second goal should have stood? Oh, yeah, right. I think from what I saw, it shouldn't have, but either way, Arsenal are terrible, so I'm not going to complain about it too much. I was more kind of disgusted by Arsenal's defending, to really complain about the officiating. I live in Zimbabwe, another one. I am Chilo, and you've been a long-standing viewer and subscriber of the channel. I really appreciate it, mate. Zimbabwe, big them up. And damn, all these different countries. Duffy should be a good one this week, yeah. And even just for the next few game weeks until Burn, Veltman and Lamptey come back. Is there a reasoning behind Bruno captaincy over Salah, or is it just gut feeling? So, as I discussed before, it's his record against Southampton, 2 goals and 4 assists in 3 games. Then you look at Salah against Burnley, 1 goal in 6 games. And also just the fact of how United are playing in pre-season and also in game week 1. Bruno Fernandes should still be the kind of main goal threat and assist threat, especially if Cavani is still out and, it will be Greenwood starting up front. I just really like Bruno in that kind of system. And also, United have a really good record against Southampton. They scored 3 against them at St Mary's last season in a 3-2 win. They made a comeback. They also beat them 9-0. Of course, Southampton were down to 9 men at one point. And also with Burnley, Liverpool could score 2 or 3, but I just suspect Mane to be the main guy in that fixture in game week 2. So that's why, personally, I'm going for Bruno Fernandes. But of course, there's no right or wrong answer. They're both very good options. We will still be watching your streams regardless of the time zones. It's worth it. I work at night, so it keeps my mind awake. Cheers, Dylan. That's really good to know, Denver. Really appreciate it. And working at night, I'll be honest, though, I've done that myself. Sometimes I've been working until 2 a.m. and I'm just so tired after that. I would just go sleep. I wouldn't be watching my streams, for example. But really appreciate that, mate. My team: Martinez, Shaw, Ayling, Simicast, Barnes, Mahrez, Greenwood, Salah, Fernandes, Antonio Ings. My bench: Forster, Amati, Veltman, Obafemi. I don't have a backup in my subs. What do you think? Yeah, that could maybe potentially be an issue. So maybe looking to improve your bench at one point is, something that you should look at. But Veltman could be back in game week 3 or 4. Obviously, we don't know yet. But yeah, I wouldn't be too kind of worried about that. It's a really good starting 11 you have. And yeah, you should be in good stead for the next few game weeks. But of course, it's always good to have 1 or 2 decent options on the bench, just in case, especially, in the kind of world we live in at the moment. Arsenal will be much better with a full squad. Gabriel's a different animal to Mari. Yeah, it surprises me, though, about Mari, because last season when he came in, he was decent, especially with holding. But in pre-season and in game week 1, he looked so slow. He looked like a big liability, really. I expect Gabriel and White to be a decent partnership, to be honest, so I agree with that. And also just Odergard, I think he will have a positive influence, ever since he came into the team, really. I think Arsenal are 3rd or 4th in the league, so that's also another thing to consider. But yeah, I'm not really going to get my hopes up with Arsenal. Thoughts on Braithwaite or Good? I'm thinking of getting one of them very good. Oh, whoa, what? Wait, I'm guessing you're saying Braithwaite, right? Well, who's Branthwaite and Good? I'm guessing they're Norwegian people. Wait, I'm apologies for that if I obviously didn't get the joke or whatever. But yeah, I'm really baffled at the moment. Barrion says, should I remove Son and put Mahrez because of the Norwich fixture is amazing? Look, if you really back Mahrez to do well, which to be fair he can, then yeah, maybe it's worth it and you can get Son back in, but it's just a bit risky and it kind of limits your future transfers and maybe forces you to take a hit or 2. Embuemo, Region or Ayling, pick one. To start, I'd probably say Region, to be on. Actually, no. No. I'd probably say Mbeumo. Unless you have Tony already starting, then yeah, maybe go for Reguilon. But yeah, that would be my answer to that. Thank God, someone else that's captaining Bruno. What, is everyone captaining Salah this week? I actually haven't even seen, most of the kind of teams that have been flying about, but I'm guessing Salah will be that most highly captained player. What do you do besides FPL? Well, in life, just answer that first. I mean, do you mean in terms of YouTube or whatever? But I mean, I was planning actually to do gaming videos and stuff like that and live streams. So what I might do is, whenever I actually, go online on PS5 or whatever, I might, just do some streams and people can tune in, talk about football, talk about FPL, talk about whatever. That's something I am considering. So let me know what you think about that. In terms of what I do outside FPL, I do work at the moment. I've been working for a few months, but you know what? It's actually working in FPL as well. And that's the thing. But the main thing about FPL is that, you're talking about football. That's the kind of attraction to it. Who do you think Arsenal are going to sell and buy in the final weeks of the transfer window? I think Torreira, maybe Willian, Bellerin, Kolasinac. These are kind of the players, they'd be looking to sell. As for buying, maybe Alra, but I don't know. Just that seems like a never-ending saga. Who else? I think a right back, but who would they get? I'm not so sure, but they need a right back for definitely. I've seen kind of links to Calvert-Lewin. I just don't see that happening. I'm captaining Bruno too, says MSK, and yeah, I'm guessing you're a United fan. I think Bruno is a fantastic option this week, and if his ownership or his effective ownership is low, I wouldn't really see that as a bad thing, to be honest. No, Dylan, not Branthwaite the GOAT. I mean, Branthwaite from Everton and Good from Brentford. Oh, do I get them in because very good? I probably wouldn't get them in, but yeah, I get what you said there. And yeah, I don't know, it's just Braithwaite. I always think about him. He's the new kind of main man at Barca, really. What do you think is going wrong for Werner at Chelsea? Because he was fire at Leipzig. I would really like to see that Werner again. I was really hyped when he joined, even though I'm not a Chelsea fan. To be honest, I think it's just the physicality of the Premier League. He has to adapt, and he's not getting as much space to run in behind. In the Bundesliga, if you see a lot of clips and goals that you see there, the amount of space, the likes of Sancho had to run into, Haaland, Lewandowski, Gnabry, all these players, they have acres of space. Everyone's playing a high line. I think in the Premier League, it can be a bit deeper. And also just a confidence thing, I think. Werner's never been a clinical finisher, but he has obviously been more reliable than he is recently. But yeah, I think those are kind of the main things. The physicality of the Premier League and also the kind of high lines that, the Bundesliga teams would play compared to the Premier League. I meant, who do you think is going to get the most points from those three in the next few fixtures? Fair enough. For the next few fixtures, tough one. I probably would arguably say Reguilon. But Mbeumo, I have a good feeling about him. He could be another one. Oh no, here we go with these comments. Official, Odergard announces retirement from UEFA Champions League after joining Arsenal. Oh, Jesus Christ, all these kind of... I've seen these comments all over Twitter and Instagram. I mean, they... fair enough. I'm kind of used to it by now as an Arsenal fan. It wasn't always like this. Arsenal were once highly respected, but yeah, I completely get that. I want to captain Bruno, but I've got a fear of missing out because of many people captaining Salah. What to do? Honestly, Kai Havertz, if I were you, I just captain whoever you think is going to get the most points. And if it doesn't work out, you can always just go for Salah or Bruno next week. There's not really a big deal. If everyone captains Salah and he blanks or doesn't do that well and Bruno does extremely well, then you already build an advantage. So honestly, I just captain whoever you think is going to score the most points. That's just the way I'd say. Obviously, it's a very simple, simplistic way of looking at it. But don't be scared of missing out. There's always this FOMO, fear of missing out. I wouldn't kind of buy into that. Always just go with your gut. And if you have stats to back it up or all these sorts of things, then yeah, why not? But yeah, don't be scared of what other people are doing. Always go for what you think. And if anyone is here, remember to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. I will be doing more deadline streams, more streams in general, covering UCL fantasy and doing more FPL videos. I've already done Benrahma to Mbeumo, and I want to do Son to Sancho or Mahrez to Sancho. I don't have Fernandes, and next week if I got rid of Son, I would get him back in instead of Mahrez. Damn, Cody. You've done Benrahma to Mbeumo. You got rid of Benrahma. That's crazy after his haul as well. And some good fixtures coming up for West Ham too. Obviously, Leicester in Game Week 2 is obviously not appealing, but fair enough. And Son to Sancho, Mahrez to Sancho. Yeah, I mean, these are very big calls. They could obviously pay off, and hopefully they do for you. But yeah, I mean, wow, that's just a different way of playing the game. I'm more of I'd say, conservative manager. I try to kind of stick to my premiums and big hitters. But yeah, there's no right or wrong way of playing FPL, I guess. But thank you everyone who has watched. Obviously, just one more time, I'll be plugging my channel, of course. Subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, turn on notifications, share this video around with anyone who loves FPL, UCL fantasy, and football. And remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I post content on there daily, and also you can just communicate with me about football or FPL in general. You can direct message me, or you can just send me a general message. Why not? And that's pretty much it. To all this deadline stream, if there is any last questions, then I will be going over them. But yeah, I'm on holiday right now. When I go back to London, I'll be aiming to do more videos, more live streams. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of work, but I'm willing to put that in. And just really appreciate everyone who has joined in today. And good luck with Game Week 2. Good luck with the rest of the season. And hopefully, Game Week 2 is as good as Game Week 1. But just one thing I would say is that there will be probably a low-scoring game week, especially if you have a kind of template team. So there's going to be quite some low scores coming up. Don't be put off by that, and don't rip up your team apart and kind of undo everything you've been building towards recently, and just take it for fun. At the end of the day, FPL is just a game. So all the very best of luck. But yeah, you know what? Let's just wait and see what happens. Kai Havertz says, with Salah possibly missing Game Week 4 and 5, should I get Son for him in Game Week 3 as Salah faces Chelsea? Honestly, I'd wait for news first, but if we kind of get suspicions or even confirmation about that happening, I would probably do that. Yeah, Salah maybe to Son in Game Week 3. It's worth keeping an eye on that situation. So that's why it's very important to have 2 free transfers going into Game Week 3. You get that flexibility to kind of change things around when need be. Cody says, should I do Son to Sancho or Mahrez to Sancho, or don't do it? Honestly, I probably wouldn't do it at this moment in time, especially if you already have Greenwood or Bruno. And sure, you already got decent enough cover from Man United, and Son and Mahrez, they're kind of going to be talismanic figures for their respective clubs. So you don't have to, get rid of them to get Sancho in. That's just my opinion on it. But yeah, thank you everyone who has tuned in today. And these kind of streams on a Friday evening, they could be the norm. Of course, I'll be asking you lot in polls and all of that good stuff in the future. But yeah, of course, like I already said, UCL fantasy videos coming up, FPL videos coming up, same with live streams. So stay tuned for that. Not just deadline streams, also potentially reaction streams. So let me know what you think about all of that down in the comment section below. And yeah, thank you for tuning in. Good luck with this week, and I'll see you